We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Project manager and involved with social media, and decided at one point in her life to visit some lovely cities in the state of California to get a sense of California and to regain her emotional footing. Ingrid, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you so much, Josh, for having me.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. On a day before Christmas, I thought a nice book about people and how they grow would be appropriate. And what prompted you to take a year off from your occupation? Well, actually, you can bring your occupation with you and hit all these lovely cities in California.
That's a great question. Well, my quest began when my two children were getting ready to leave home, and my daughter was going to be going to Berkeley, and my son was going to be attending Davis, and I was left with an empty nest. And one of the things that I always wanted to do was to do a little bit of traveling, and I wanted to move somewhere in California that I really felt would resonate with me. And so that sort of launched my one-year journey across California, where I lived in one city per month for a year.
And you lived in San Francisco, you lived in Ojai. Well, San Francisco, obviously it's a beautiful city. You had fun?
Absolutely. San Francisco is one of my favorite cities in the entire world. It's just very cosmopolitan. It has a huge Victorian townhouses, and it's got the Golden Gate Bridge. And then, of course, it's very contemporary. There's a huge high-tech industry now that's in San Francisco. And so it's got everything, and particularly what it has is San Francisco Bay, which I love.
And you're a project manager, and you do social media? Is that what you do?
I'm a project manager, and so I help Fortune 500 companies integrate their social media strategies into their marketing plans. So I'm a contractor for a Silicon Valley firm that I love very well.
So you had the, brains to, while you were traveling in these 12 cities in California for the year, you were still working your career, and you could do that from wherever city you were residing.
Absolutely, because nowadays, if you have a laptop and a cell phone, you can set up shop wherever you want, and nobody really even has to know where you're at. Although I do have to share that some of the teleconferences that I was in were somewhat dubious. For example, one time there was a terrible rainstorm and thunderstorm, and I had to sit outside because I couldn't get cell phone reception. So my feet were dangling over and they were getting wet, and I just had to pretend like everything was hunky-dory.
I gotcha. And in San Francisco, when you weren't working, you explored the Bay, and what did you do? Did you go to the art museums? I mean, what did you do? And also, did you see family and friends when you traveled?
Mm-hmm. Well, I did, because I had raised my two children in Sacramento, so that was one of the places that was very close to home. So I actually had quite a few visitors come and stay with me. I lived in a Victorian home in a basement, and it was very bohemian. It sort of had a lot of throwback to the 60s. And, of course, I lived very near Golden Gate Park and Haight-Ashbury. And so when I was in San Francisco, there's just an endless amount of things to do. I considered San Francisco to be almost like an adult Disneyland.
Oh, that's very nice. Yes.
There's never a shortage of activities to do in San Francisco, both culturally and spiritually as well.
And does San Francisco retain its cultural influence now as it had, say, well, we can go way back, but certainly in the 50s, you had the Beat Generation, which has a certain place in American history. In the 60s, you had all the hippies going there in 63, 64, 65, 67, da-da-da. And then in the 70s, you had actually, in retrospect, a gay rights movement occur in San Francisco when the gays were there and they refused to be kicked around by the police or the government, and they changed things for themselves. And that has to be seen as a cultural avant-garde movement.
Absolutely, and I can speak to that too, because where I lived is in a sweet little part of town called Noe Valley, which was right next to the Castro.
Ah.
And so the Castro, of course, is where Harvey Milk and the whole gay movement, the whole LGBTQ movement really had its birthplace. And so it's just such an interesting place. And in fact, when I worked for the San Francisco Unified School District, who was one of my clients as well, we did a lot of work around the LGBT community, in particular helping youth integrate more into who they are and to have that general sense of support for them, to
Right.
not be bullied in the schools. And
Right.
so San Francisco...
Or worse. Yeah.
Or worse.
Bullied or worse, yeah.
Absolutely. And so really it's been one of the, I have to use the word pride in my own personal professional work that I did around San Francisco in the support of the whole LGBTQ community.
And then also, concurrent with the gay rights movement, which was so strong in San Francisco, you had all the environmental issues of recycling, etc., which the city of San Francisco worked with and continues to work with. And so they really, I think, are very proud of them. And now that, of course, they have so many high-tech industries, so they continue to be an important city culturally in the United States and also worldwide. People like to go to San Francisco. They think, San Francisco, we're going.
Yes, of course. I mean, what's not to like? And in particular, the Golden Gate Bridge, too. I actually had a rite of passage where I walked across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Really? Wow.
It was quite an experience, and I definitely write about it in the book, a really great story about going against the tide and, really taking a chance to do something that I felt very passionate about.
And walking across the Golden Gate Bridge, kind of breezy, isn't it?
Not only is it breezy and cold, but it's also very loud. And
really?
because the
Right.
bridge itself, it almost seems like it's kind of tinny, so there's nowhere for the reverb to go, and so it's actually quite an assault on your whole system. I wouldn't say it's actually super pleasurable, but it's something that I believe that everyone should have an opportunity to do at least once.
How many hikers were walking with you when you did that?
Tons and tons of people are always walking across the bridge, for sure. Especially on a Saturday afternoon.
How long does it take, an hour?
It's actually 1.5 miles. Okay, so, depending on how fast you go, I'm a pretty fast walker. I could do it in a half an hour.
Yeah. And you have to dress very warm because you get real. No, seriously, it's real cold there in the middle of the bridge.
San Francisco is very temperate year round. Okay, so it's really never hotter than 50 degrees. I mean, colder than 50 degrees or hotter than 60 degrees. So it was right around about that. I think it was right around Christmas time, so it might have been about 50 or 55 degrees. So yeah, it was a little bit chilly. I had my hat, I had my black leather jacket, and I just felt so very San Francisco.
Didn't Jack London write that he spent the coldest winter of his life at the summer in San Francisco? I think it's one of his famous lines.
I know. Whoever that's attributed to, I thought maybe it might have been Mark Twain. I'm not quite sure. But yes,
Right.
San Francisco is just a beautiful, historic, lovely city.
And speaking of Jack London, you also spent some time in Carmel, which is a fantastic California seaside destination point.
Carmel is really the most romantic city in the entire state of California. It is just beautiful beyond measure because, of course, you have the wonderful white sand beach of Carmel, and then you have these amazing little cottages, and each one of them has a different name. And so where I lived in Carmel is behind the most famous little cottage in Carmel called Hansel. And so I lived behind Hansel in Gretel. And so this home was built by Hugh Comstock. And it just looked like straight out of a fairy tale from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Now, in your book, you mentioned Hugh Comstock. So for my listeners, tell them who Hugh Comstock is.
Well, Hugh Comstock was an architect back in the 1920s. And so he built this very first house for his wife based on a fairy tale. And so she actually had these cute little dolls that they were called Otsy Totsy dolls.
Really?
And so he built this little tiny 280-foot home with just a crooked little chimney straight out of a fairy tale, just so she could house her little Otsy Totsy dolls.
Oh, that's very nice. And then people decided they just thought the design was just fun, and they built similar designs.
Yes, and that's what they ended up doing. And so he really had a very flourishing business. And I think there are still at least between 20 or 40 of these homes still in existence. And of course, there are architectural landmarks. And they're all beneath this canopy, this forest of all these wonderful trees. And so the one interesting thing about Carmel that most people don't know is that they don't deliver mail to people's homes because the homes in them of themselves really have no addresses. And and so everybody who wants to get their mail in Carmel just goes to the main post office. And so it's quite a social outlet for all the residents of Carmel to go and pick up their mail. They're always running into people that they know. So it really creates a great sense of community.
So they run into Clint Eastwood. Doesn't Clint Eastwood live in Carmel, I think, doesn't he?
Yes, he
I believe
does.
yeah.
Yes, he
Was
does.
he the mayor of Carmel?
He was the mayor of Carmel back in the 80s.
It was
Yes.
it's kind of interesting, you know. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger decides to run for governor, and Clint, I guess, maybe more modest of a fellow, figures, now I'll be mayor of Carmel. It's good enough for me. I always thought that was kind of amusing because certainly he could have been governor because he was
Yes.
very people liked him.
Absolutely. Yes, he was. And yeah, he's a really great guy. I didn't have a chance to run into him, but really he is the kind of the exemplary citizen of Carmel. But there's also kind of another interesting story about how Carmel came to be that sometimes people may not know this particular story. But back at the turn of the century in 1906, when San Francisco experienced their very big earthquake, there was a huge bohemian culture of artists and poets and writers. And so after the earthquake, they all migrated down to Carmel. And that's really how that small city or town of Carmel actually began, with all these bohemians coming in after 1906.
I see, that's interesting.
And creating this sort of utopian bohemian culture.
Right.
And so there's a lot of history there with George Sterling and Jack London and just a variety of other really important writers of that time got their start in Carmel.
And what about Esalen Institute? You mentioned in your book that you did a seminar there.
I did. What you can do is take a personal retreat at Esalen, and Esalen is just one of the most fantastic places in the entire state of California. So, of course, it's on the Big Sur coast. And so what you have there is these amazing hot springs that are in tubs, and they are overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And they have a whole retreat center there where you can take workshops, and they have wonderful organic food that's just so delicious. And you just have this incredible sense of well-being when I'm at Esalen. It's a very, very powerful place. Anything you want to try and work out within your own psyche at Esalen, it's going to challenge you. It's not entirely comfortable being there for me because I was challenged on so many different levels. But after I emerged from Esalen, I had a renewed vitality and vim and vigor for what it was that I was doing and for the completion of the next 6 months of my journey.
And Esalen really was, and possibly still is, an important cultural center. And people made movies about it and jokes about it and wrote articles about it, but it attracted, at its best, some very good thinkers.
Yes, it really did. I mean, it was, it's just such a counterculture movement at the very beginning of it. And then after, they've been in existence for about 50 years. In
Right.
fact, I believe that they just celebrated their 50th birthday. And now, of course, you can't really even build anything in Big Sur, so it's really like the place to go. And it's actually very reasonable to spend a personal retreat there. I believe as I recall, I think it's less than $200, and you can go there and stay overnight. And the housing isn't, it's like 4 women to a cabin, but it includes 3 full meals and complete and total
That's very
access
nice, yeah.
to all the hot springs that you want to go to. And it's, some of them are definitely, one side is clothing and the other side is clothing optional. But I believe that most people just go without any clothes, so it's very liberating. I love Esalen.
And people also stay in yurts there on Esalen, do they? They stay in yurts, yeah.
They do.
And you also hit some smaller towns, some of the inland mining towns. You were in Mariposa?
Mariposa is one of the sweetest little gold rush towns in California. And the minute I arrived in that town, it was like this group of women. They were 6 women. And so I ended up calling them my Mariposse.
Oh, it's cute.
We all took yoga classes together. One of the women in the Mariposse was the leader of a yoga studio. And so we just really bonded there. And they have taco night every Tuesday night at the River Inn. And it was the beginning of summer. The wisteria was still in bloom. And the flowers, it just was so gorgeous living there. And I actually lived in a home in Mariposa. Mariposa has such tremendous gold rush lore and history, especially with my very favorite explorer, who is John Fremont, who basically opened up the West, and they coined the term Manifest Destiny after John Fremont. Very, very interesting man. But one of the interesting parts about where I lived in Mariposa is that this home, which is called the Adams home, was purchased by Ansel Adams' son and his wife. And while Ansel Adams never did set foot in that home, he actually lived in Carmel for the rest of his life before he died with his wonderful wife, Virginia. And he was quite a character, that Ansel Adams, in addition to being a wonderful black and white photographer, very ethereal, and of course one of our most beloved American photographers.
Yes.
He was also, quite a cut up too. So I lived in this beautiful home, and it just had so much history attached to it. It was built sort of, in the 1930s, and judges had lived there, and it was just very close to town. And so I was really able to explore a tremendous amount in all the mining museums and the gold rush, town of Mariposa in and of itself, and learn more about John Fremont. And it just was so incredible and amazing for me to believe that 150 years ago, that place was crawling with gold miners from all over the world.
It was a boom town at one point.
Yes, it was. And that each one of those miners had it in their heart that they were going to find gold, and it was going to change the trajectory of their life.
Right, exactly. That's right.
Yeah, and that just was really powerful for me because, as you know, California was built on the gold rush. It was
Yes.
the greatest migration of any set of people really since the Crusades that came to California, all wanting to make a better life for themselves. And how many people actually really did discover gold? It wasn't that much.
Right.
But what a story to tell.
Right. No, yeah, it was truly in the 19th century really a remarkable story. And how does Mariposa support itself today?
Mariposa is such an amazing little town, and I'll tell you something that they did. Okay, so they retained the integrity of that little gold rush town, and they never allowed corporations to come in. So
no big box stores.
No
See,
big box stores.
That's smart on the part of city fathers. Otherwise, you're just another little funky small town with a Target and a Walmart and da-da-da. I'm not putting those down as far as people who have to shop there. But if you're the city fathers and you think, well, we want to attract tourists, we want to maintain a certain vitality culturally here, it's a smart move and not necessarily easy to implement either.
Agreed. And so the city council and the board of supervisors, if I was wearing a hat, I would take it off to them because based on the decisions that they've made, and they're conservative, And sometimes we have it in our minds that being conservative is being stodgy and old, but they really had a vision. And because of that vision, compared to another town very close to that, which is called Oakhurst, which is on Highway 140, it's basically the entrance to Yosemite National Park. You can travel for about 5 miles and find every single type of corporation, fast food, restaurant, box stores. And the integrity of the town of Oakhurst, it just doesn't have anything that kind of bonds it and unifies it together. So
Right.
when you go into Mariposa, at least I was endlessly charmed by the mom and pop stores, the jewelry stores, the restaurants, and it feels like the Old West.
Ah.
And it charmed me to no end.
And there you had a nice little house?
I had that wonderful house in the Adams house that I lived in, and had my wonderful friends who were the Mariposa girls, women, and they just embraced me. It's sort of that small town, open-hearted, where I never felt like I was a stranger. I felt like I was embraced right from the beginning, where some of the larger cities that I went to and lived in the urban areas, there wasn't that familiarity, that intimacy, that bonding that happens so quickly in a very small town.
And you enjoyed being there because you felt that you were drawn to it culturally because they managed to maintain a certain integrity of architecture and attracted a certain number of people there who were artisans, etc., and it gave the town a certain flavor.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it did.
Well, let's talk about another town that I think kind of did the same thing. Ojai, in here, not too far from Santa Barbara, they also fought with big developers and managed to keep them out largely. And that's a city that, because of Krishnamurti, largely, although others have been helpful, but the Krishnamurti crowd used to hang around when Krishnamurti would vacation there. And so Ojai is a very interesting and powerful place.
Oh, well, Ojai is really the womb of California.
Oh,
There's at least 115 spiritual and religious organizations there in Ojai.
I did not know that. Oh, my
Yes.
goodness.
And so, of course, Krishnamurti, has his foundation there, but there's so many other different spiritual healers and, like I said, religious organizations that have their place there. But primarily, I would say it's because there's a vortex in Ojai. And so a vortex was described to me as a place where you feel good because of the land. And so there's a sense of well-being when I'm in Ojai. Now, one of my favorite California Indian tribes is the Chumash Indians, had a very powerful presence there in Ojai. And because it might have been because of the Chumash Indians or the way the mountains are, instead of going from north to south, they're east to west, and the way the marine layer sort of settles in the valley.
Right.
And
It's a pretty place.
the things that they grow in Ojai are unbelievable. It is one of the sweetest agricultural parts of California. I mean, it's just so vintage California to me. So, of course, you've got all these wonderful oranges and avocados, and you have horses, and all these incredibly lined stoned walls, and people sell fruits and vegetables in stands outside of their homes. And it's lots and lots of wonderful places to hike. And of course, the downtown area of Ojai is quite lovely too. Lots of really good restaurants. And, I must say that on my journey, I didn't do a whole lot of eating in restaurants and shopping and that kind of a thing, to be gone for a full year.
Right.
I just wanted mostly the immersion to be with the community. And so, Ojai, wow, I would really love to live in Ojai one day.
It's a fun city. I actually enjoyed going to Ojai. What other city really that you visited you thought, oh, this is really just great too? Besides Carmel, San Francisco, what else did you hit that you thought, okay?
Okay, well, so I really have to give kudos to my college alma mater, which is Humboldt State University, and so I lived in Arcata. And I lived
Cold up there, isn't it?
again, it's temperate. Okay, so it doesn't really get colder than 50 degrees or warmer than 60. But yeah, of course, by Southern California standards, I mean, hello, we're in LA. It's going to be 75 degrees today, right?
Yes, isn't that fun? Yes, it's very nice, really.
It actually really is fun because I love to be warm and I
Right.
don't care to be cold at all.
Right.
However, the city of Arcata is just, I just call it the crown jewel of California because it's not very well known. And most people who think of Humboldt County, you know, think of like a cash crop and, you know, everything that's sort of
Cash crop of cannabis sativa? we're talking?
Yes, or indica. We don't know which one, right? It could be either one.
You're quite right. You're quite right. Yes, that's right.
And but what they have up there, which is to me just more magical than anything, is the redwoods. And so the primordial redwood forest, it's incredible to imagine that it occupied so much of Humboldt County, and now only 4% of that primordial old growth redwood forest is left. And that the founders and visionaries, even though there's only 4% left, there's still 4% left, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just an incredible, wonderful place to live because it's got a very vibrant alternative lifestyle. People really kind of beat to their own drummer in Arcata. And then it's got this wonderful college there, Humboldt State University, which of course I got my degree in journalism in and lived there for 8 years and worked at the Eureka Chamber of Commerce. And
Oh, really?
and so it was just such a wonderful opportunity. My daughter Haley was born in Eureka. And of course, my son Jordan was born in Sacramento. But it, you know, I just have such an affinity in my heart for Arcata, and I just really enjoyed every moment that I was up there. It's just a fantastic city.
And Humboldt County, does it mostly survive because of the university and tourism? Are those the real major? And the other thing, the cannabis thing, obviously, we recognize that is a big, powerful underground economy. But the economy really was in trouble there, except for the university, was it not? Because why? What happened to Humboldt County?
Well, a huge part of it is because they mined all the natural resources, right?
Oh,
They
yes.
cut down the forest.
Right. Right. Good point. Good point. So the ecological mistakes that were made really cost the county and it cost the state and still costing us.
Yes, and yes, of course, with you know all the everything that's going into the rivers and to the ocean, but too, you know, it's the world over. It's you know overfishing. You know the fishing industry. You know once was very vital and you know vibrant.
Yes.
But of course that's coastal wide, and so whoever you know at that time when they came in back in the oh gosh, I think Arcata was established like in 1868, 1870, something like that. You know, it was just a free for all. I mean, the natural resources were so incredibly abundant, but it's a finite resource.
Right.
And
yes, it is.
when that
And
is
they didn't know that in the 19th century they weren't really thinking about these issues, but they didn't realize that they were going to overfish everything and shoot all the birds, and it was a concept that a lot of us take for granted now as being like most everyone kind of understands that things can be overdone, overfished, etc. But in the 19th century, everyone thought it was just limitless. They just thought, hey, whatever, this is our stuff.
Oh my gosh, and no truer place was that found than in Lake Tahoe. And when there used to be so many different types of fish there that it would be nothing for someone to catch 60 or 70 fish a day.
Right.
And then they would go out into the center of the different islands in Lake Tahoe or around the edges, and they would actually take all the bird eggs, right? And they would scramble them up and they would have them for breakfast. And then what they didn't know was that those birds hatched, right? And they
Are we
actually,
talking now in the 20th century or the 19th century?
the 19th century,
right.
yeah, just the turn of the century.
Right.
But really, and probably until about 1920, you know, when they overfished Lake Tahoe, and then there was, you know, the Lahontan cutthroat trout, you know, was so incredibly plentiful, and people thought that it would be like that forever, but it's a finite resource.
Right.
And, you know, so I'm so glad that there's, you know, protection in place these days. But, you know, of course, the species have gone extinct. So many of them. But, you know, it's what we have. And so hopefully we're smarter and wiser today and, you know, make healthier choices for our environment.
And one of the things about California, in general, this is a broad statement, but the state does have a certain environmental consciousness and has been very smart to protect large areas. And that protection of large areas of wilderness and beach, et cetera, has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain, but has given the state, a certain, I don't want to say a certain not only a healthy economy, a healthy economy for sure, 'cause people come for tourism, etc. It's made the state quite lovely, and it's really, you have to fight all the time because always people want to cut it down and pave it over and build a shopping plaza and make money there. And of course, we do need shopping plazas. But really, the state of California in general, since you seem to have a bent for this, is doing pretty well, is it not?
Well, I think that the state of California is very progressive with their environmental laws, and I think that they can certainly be a lot more stringent. But then you do have to have the balance between the environment and business.
Yes,
right.
Yeah, there needs to be balance. For
yeah,
sure.
when you have too many restrictions on business, then people have a tendency to want to move out of the state. But overall, I think California is just in really a wonderful state to not only live but also to do business in. I mean,
I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I love California.
Me too, actually. California is great. Okay, so Ingrid Hart, where do we get your lovely new book? Where do we get this book?
Well,
Ingrid
Josh,
Hart.
thanks for asking. So you can get my book online in two places. The first I would recommend is to go to my website, which is going to be a little bit less for you, myyearincalifornia.com.
myyearincalifornia.com. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Or you can go on Amazon and do a search on myyearincalifornia.com, and then you can find it there too.
Well, Ingrid Hart, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being a guest today on Here's to Your Health. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Josh. It's been a pleasure.
You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Josh Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Hey everyone, this is Richard Carr, Business Relations Manager for LA Talk Live. Did you know social media produces almost double the marketing leads of trade shows, telemarketing, direct mail, or even pay-per-click ads? And that about 46% of all online users count on social media when making that ever-important purchase decision. Hey, if you feel lost when it comes to social media, Top Tier Media can help you. Top Tier Media specializes in social media management and blogger outreach for beauty, fashion, health, and lifestyle brands. To learn more, go to www.toptiermedia.com. That's www.toptiermedia.com. Top Tier Media, the official social media marketing company of LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, I'm Jerry Bell of the Daz Band in New Birth.
And I'm Brahima Arsalan.
Inviting you to join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time for Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics, baby.
Join us as we play some of the greatest hits of soul and R&B and listen in to interesting discussions with the legends of the music.
So don't you forget, join us on the Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics. You'll love it. Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio.
Or watch us and listen directly at latalklive.com, baby.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure.
This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk, baby. We're music.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My next guest, Alexander Westgarth, is doing something which is actually rather new. He speculates in wine futures. That is, wine. People love to drink wine, and they love to buy certain vintages. And now we find that there's somewhat of an organized approach to collecting wine and to profiting. Alexander, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Well, thank you, Josh.
And was that a decent introduction as to what you do?
Yes, definitely. Wine futures over here has its own term, which is purely wine before it's bottled and actually delivered.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so
no, that's
that's
fine.
not what you do.
Yes, partly. But there's also a whole market in the next 10, 15 years of that wine's life before it's ready to be drunk. So essentially, it's the playing the future of what the wine is going to be worth when it's ready to drink. But wine futures has its own term,
I see,
and
yes,
in French
okay.
has en primeur or primeurs, and that's when the wine's in the barrel. So just to clarify
And so you do both.
Yeah.
For you, in other words, you get clients, and the clients might have a certain vintage they feel is a very valuable vintage, and you help them promote and sell that vintage, and also you might even buy crops of grapes, and then before they're bottled, you do that as well?
Yeah, no, I mean, essentially, as a commodity market, it is the very, very finest wines that you trade. So essentially 5 chateaus: Lafite, Margaux, Mouton, Aubryon, and Latour.
I know nothing about this subject whatsoever.
Yeah.
So you tell me, because I really don't know.
Yeah, no, so historically it's been the very top Bordeaux wines that have shown the best appreciation.
Bordeaux wines only from certain areas in France.
From the Bordeaux region of France, yeah. And up until recently, that's dominated about 95% of the market. And it's kind of changed over the last couple of years. Other regions are coming in. But these wines need time to age. They diminish in quantity when they're consumed, and there's a finite quantity produced initially. And some of the wines need to age for 20 years before they're ready to drink. So someone needs to look after it and nurture it during that period.
And what prompted you to move into this area of wine? Is the word speculation a good word?
Yeah. It's all I've done. I mean, I found a job in the paper when I was 22, and I've been doing it for 10 years.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So that's essentially my working career has been in trading wine commodities.
And do you have an undergraduate degree in economics?
No, I don't. I have an undergraduate degree in violin making. Actually, I'm a luthier. So.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's very interesting.
Yeah, but that's just not really much to do with the wine. But it's really simple market to understand that you buy the best wines, and the super wealthy are deemed to get wealthier and wealthier every year, and there's a finite quantity of these wines. So I think what's new in what I'm bringing to America, which is very exciting, is an opportunity for everyday investors to take advantage of a commodity market that up until recently has only been preserved for the very wealthy elite that can afford to have their own cellar and afford to stock their own wines, and then if the wines rise, decide to sell them. Whereas today you can put $5,000-$10,000 in and have it professionally stored and guaranteed to be kept at the very best conditions for resale, without having to have the headache of having your own cellar and maintain it yourself. So that's what's new and exciting about
And
wine.
there was a very nice article in the LA Times about this subject, was there not?
There was, yeah.
It was really a very nice article, and obviously they, this. So how many people actually are investing in this? Not wine futures. These are not wine futures.
Well, yeah, I mean, wine futures has its own term, which is a wine investment term, a wine term, which refers to the first 2 years of a wine's life whilst it's undergoing aging in oak at the chateaus. And this is prior to the wines being bought. So that is what wine futures are. It's not always the best time to invest in wine. In the last recent years, 2009, 2010, exceptional vintages. But the chateaus want to make money. So they release them at the highest price they possibly can. And so over the last few years, there's been a lot more value in older vintages that are of equal quality, but that are perhaps closer to their drinking age, but maybe a third of the price or half the price. So it's about finding a brand that you believe in as an investment vehicle, and finding the least expensive version of that brand it presents opportunity.
Recently in the stock market, I think gold is down 28%. It had a horrible year since 1981, worst year. Silver's down. Corn is down. So yours is you're a commodity player. So has wine had a bad year or two?
It has had a bad couple of years, yeah. The big first growth wines have come down quite substantially over the last 18, 24 months. But still over the last 10 years, it's been a very robust investment. It is a 5 to 10 year sort of minimum hold.
That's the thinking.
Yeah.
When you're working with a client, you tell them, no,
It's
this is a 5 or 10 year investment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If the wine does well on a shorter term, then that's a bonus. But to expect it on the 5 to 10 years is the best way to sort of look at the market.
Alexander, what's the name of your organization, by the way?
Westgarth Wine Investment Brokers is my US company.
And where are you in Los Angeles?
We're in Venice, just down the road.
I see. Want to give us address and a contact?
Yeah, so it's 475 Washington Boulevard, which is the address. And the phone number is 310-943-9336.
And people come to your office and say, well, Alexander, I want to buy 10,000 cases of this, and we're going to store them in your garage. I mean, where is your facility, by the way?
Yes. Well, this is why it's interesting coming over here, because in the US, you can only buy and sell wine after import taxes have been paid on the wine. Okay?
Oh, I see. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So buying and selling wine located in America involves the client being responsible for holding the wine and storing it themselves. In the UK, you can trade wines before taxes have been paid on them. So it's got an official offshore status where the warehouse system is regulated to make sure people aren't taking wine in or out of the warehouse without paying tax on it. So you get more of an audit history of the wine in the UK, whereas over here, you don't know whose cellar it's been in, you don't know whether it's flooded, you don't know what the temperatures of the cellar have been. Whereas in the UK, and there's one warehouse in particular called Octavian Corsham Cellars that The Guardian reported a couple of years ago as having $1.5 billion of wine in this vault. But I was there recently in the summer, and they told me there's much more than that. But yeah, that's where the wine would be stored.
Well, that seems like a good thing, then, does it not, for that kind of careful paper trail?
It does.
And does that also then keep the value of the wine higher, because people know we can follow the wine, we know exactly where it's been. It's better.
Precisely. So you're looking to buy what's known as OWC cases, which is original wooden cases of wine.
Oh, I see.
So they're either 6 or 12 bottle cases, and wine not in OWC is typically about sort of 10% less valuable. And certainly when you get into the older vintages, wine that's got a provenance history, it's been stored in a place like Octavian Corsham Cellars for 10, 20, 30 years, will fetch a lot more money than if it hasn't got that history of where it's been. So yeah, exactly. To have proof of where the wine has stored for as long as possible, and be it government regulated proof in the UK, it's just so much easier to sell the wine. It's just a question of getting a price and selling it, as opposed to having to authenticate it, whether it's real or not.
Certainly.
Which is a big difference.
And also, what every once in a while you see something in the paper, an auction, they sell a bottle of wine from 1811 or something. I'm guessing
that's
yeah.
a year that was sold recently.
Yeah, I saw that. And you don't drink that, do you? You just
yes, that will be that's still drinking.
Is that actually drinkable?
I mean, I
theoretically
I wouldn't
drinkable.
know. Apparently, yeah. That wine is a Yquem that's in question. That's a sweet wine. It's a Sauternes Southern Bordeaux, and being a dessert wine, it's got very high sugar content. So it does.
Oh, it stays.
Dependent on the vintage, and I mean every year is different. But apparently that is one of those big vintages that is still drinking. Yeah.
And people drink that because it's kind of, let me use the word goof. It's just kind of like, it's a goof. You get a bunch of your friends together and think, we're drinking this wine from 1811 because we can.
We can.
Is that it?
Exactly. I think if you've become a real wine enthusiast and tasted all these, you spend your whole life tasting wines, then it's a really interesting thing to do, to taste a wine that's that old. And that's amazing. I mean, that's very, very unusual, and that's just an exception. The wines that we trade are typically within 10 years or younger. purely so that we can have that proof of where they've been, know exactly they're genuine, and keep them. And then down the line, once we've got our own history of these wines having been held by clients for 10, 30 years, we can start trading the older wines. We know exactly where they've come from and how they are. But we'd never trade wines that old because it's very hard to tell whether it's genuine or not. And I'm certainly not expert
It'd be hard to know.
enough
I mean, someone could make up an old label or something, and
that does happen.
You couldn't.
Yeah.
Sure. That should be probably easy to do at this point, isn't it?
Well, there's this Rudy, this LA chap, this Rudy Kurnavan, that's facing fraud at the moment for doing that.
That was big. I
yeah.
actually saw it in the paper, and that was like, it was fun to read about it, but also it was like kind of a crime story. It was like, okay.
Yeah, and he's down and out defrauding people by putting something else in a fake label, or maybe a real label, empty the bottle and put stuff in.
So people have been drinking Mogan David 2020 and thinking, oh my God, I'm drinking. Is that it? I'm making a joke there.
Well, yeah. At the price of a few tens of $1,000s a bottle. Will
that guy do some time?
I should imagine so. I mean, I've got no idea. But when it was, it's all about evidence, isn't it? But I mean, it's quite obvious, I think, that what he was doing. But yeah, I mean, going back to that, staying on that subject, the market really accelerated in value as the Chinese were allowed to import wine tax-free through Hong Kong in 2008.
Oh, I see.
And so the Chinese market flourished dramatically.
Because the Chinese are actually terribly affluent and
it's a real cultural thing to drink the finest wines, and it was something that they've been closed off from.
Right.
And so the consumption in China is growing exponentially. I mean, they have I think they expected to double their consumption to 1.9 litres annually by 2017, at which point France and Italy will be drinking 50 litres per annum. And China's got 20% of the adult population in the world. So 20% of the adult population is doubling their wine consumption. But anyway, going back to 2008, in 2008, the prices rose, and we saw a lot of fraudulent wines coming out of China. So again, if you're trading wines older than China, older than 2008, it's good to have the recorded history of where they've been dating back prior to that date.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, I think as an asset class, it's comparative to gold, which is majority owned by investors. I believe nearly 100% of gold in the world is owned by people speculating on it.
Oh, I did not know that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a large quantity of it is. Whereas wine, 80% of the people that buy this wine buy it for their own consumption. So you've got a market that is driven by the spending habits of the very wealthy, as opposed to an economical play as such.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So
and what about California? We have lovely soil, and we have great grapes. And how about our wines? Which I remember, 30, 40 years ago, people kind of made fun of them for whatever reason, possibly just bad marketing from the California grape boards or something. But now people take California wines, and New York State wines for that matter, seriously, as they're just as good as some of the French wines, are they not?
Yeah, they are.
I'm asking. I'm not telling.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You are correct. Yeah. They're exceptional Californian wines, and there's some amazing wines, and some of them actually rise in value substantially. Still on a global market, on a global scale, they haven't got the same recognition as
the French wines,
as the top Bordeaux wines.
And what about Britain? Does Britain produce any wines themselves that they're very proud of?
We're beginning. Global warming's helping us, and
is it really?
Yeah,
no joke.
Yeah, it's allowing us to produce a very sort of acidic, very sharp grape, which is fantastic for sparkling wine. So we've got a big growing sparkling wine.
And where do they grow grapes in Britain?
In Devon, in Kent, south-facing slopes towards the south of the country. But yeah, France has always been the home of the grape and the wine. Yeah.
And you got into this. You were involved with the arts, and just kind of literally fell into this. Is that it?
Yeah, I found a job in the paper and was a young man and was earning good money doing it, and stuck with it. And now I'm in the lucky position where I have a bunch of clients that have been trading for up to 10 years, have assets of wine, so I'm looking to sell, and it's enabled me to be in a position where I can set up my own organisation. So, but it's really what's really exciting is to bring this commodity market to everyday investors, because.
So are you the first fellow doing this in in Los Angeles?
Yes, in Los Angeles definitely. There's a couple of people in the United States doing it, but I'm definitely one of the first.
And how does the U.S. government regulate this at this point?
Oh, it's completely unregulated. Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of a
it's
Wild West kind of a thing going on here.
Completely Wild West. So you have to be careful. When dealing in the UK, you've got to be careful about actually making sure you have possession of the wine. There's lots of problems where wine is stored in the name of a company on behalf of clients, which is fine.
Yes.
Until something happens to that company. And if something happens to that company...
The wine disappears.
Well, the wine disappears, or what that company owes out gets divided by what it has in its assets, and you find that you get a percentage of what you have left. But then you've got companies in the UK that have been going since the 17th century that operate in that manner.
Oh, really? Oh, that's very nice.
You might trust those. But yeah, it's all about having private accounts. But it's just really exciting to allow people that have got $5,000, $10,000 to make the same investments that a multimillionaire might make. And that's exciting. And that really is something that we can offer.
And are you finding that, without giving out any names necessarily, but you're getting just affluent Californians, celebrities, et cetera, whatever, and they're doing this because they think we make a little money and it's fun, or what are they thinking, by the way?
The majority of new investors are people. Yes, there are people that do have some money, but I wouldn't say they're exceptionally affluent. I think they're tired of lackluster returns of the last decade of traditional markets not doing well. And this is a market that averages 13-15% annually over a 5-year period.
That's remarkable returns.
Yeah.
Remarkable, absolutely.
And you're playing the wealth disparity. That's the bet. The rich get richer.
And if they get richer, they might drink up all the wine, and the wine left you'll make money on. Is that it?
Well, yeah. Well, exactly. Okay. They might drink 80% of it. You've got 5-10% of it left, and you can't reproduce one of these vintages. They're very unique. Every vintage, although it's produced on the same soil, is unique and unreplicable. So that's what makes it so valuable to some people.
Well, Alexander, I tell you, it's interesting to me. Do me a favor. Once again, give us your contact information so people can think, okay, we're going to contact this young man and inquire.
Okay, yes. So the website is westgarthwines.com. That's probably the best way. There's lots of information there. The website is designed to teach new people about the marketplace. And that's westgarthwines.com. And there's a phone number on there, or
Please,
you can 855-345-3844. 855-345-3844.
Well, Alexander, thank you very much for being a guest.
Thank you very much. It's been great speaking to you. I hope you have a great Christmas.
You too. Thank you. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Josh Lane. We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Lewis Logan, inviting you to join me every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon for Faith on the Front Line. We don't just talk about it, we are about it. That's our motto. Don't just talk about it, be about it. We highlight the issues and challenges that we face today and how faith communities and leaders make a difference. So don't forget to tune in to Faith on the Front Line, exclusively here on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B and watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Season's greetings. This is Richard Carr, station manager at LA Talk Live, and I just wanted to take a moment out to thank all of our listeners out there who help to make LA Talk Live the internet's newest and hottest destination for beautiful music and invigorating talk. And I wanted to send out my heartfelt holiday wishes to all of our listeners worldwide and wish you all the very best of holiday seasons. Here's to peace, prosperity, and good health in the new year. Thanks for listening to LA Talk Live, and thanks for your support. Happy holidays to everyone.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bey back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bey Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bey Show, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at LATalkLive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My next guest has been a guest on Here's to Your Health before. The president of MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Pat Riera. Mothers Against Drunk Driving is really the principal organization which has helped the United States reduce the amount of traffic fatalities caused by the consumption of alcohol. It's an important topic. It's an important topic during the holidays. Pat, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here, and I really very much know the value of your work. And you've been a guest on the show before, and your team has been on before. And why is it important for us to pay attention to alcohol and driving during the holidays?
Well, you know, as you can imagine, Josh, during the holiday season, and particularly the time frame between Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve, there is a spike in the number of fatalities as it relates to drinking and driving. And one of the things I really wanted to share with your audience is some statistics really to kind of put it all in place in terms of how tragic this situation really is. For the first time in 6 years, drunk driving deaths have increased.
Oh.
And that's nationally by 5%. Now, that might not sound like a large percentage to some, but for those who are losing loved ones, that's significant. Nationally, about 10,000 people were killed in drunk driving crashes in 2012.
10,000 Americans were killed in 2012.
10,322 to be exact. So if you put that into math, that's about one person every 51 minutes. So just do the math with that. And these are senseless crimes, or what we consider to be senseless crimes and crimes that can be preventable.
Yes.
So as we begin to have discussions around this time of the year, particularly holidays, when everybody is really being festive, and a lot of the festivities really center around alcohol and alcohol use. And so we just want to remind your listeners to be responsible drinkers, designate someone who is a non-drinker, or at a minimum, call a taxi or an alternative way of transportation for someone to come and pick you up. Don't put other people at risk on the streets and get into a car after you've been drinking.
Right.
And that's a huge problem.
Right. Now, your group, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, was founded when?
This was founded about 32 years ago. And it was founded really by a mother in Northern California who had a tragic situation of her 13-year-old daughter being really plowed down by a drunk driver after she was leaving a county fair. So just imagine the tragic response of that, losing your only child, actually. And so this mother went on a huge campaign, and she went on a campaign to really kind of look at laws and to bring attention to the fact that there were a lot of people on the streets who were drinking and driving.
Right.
And so Matt, as you indicated, has really been the pioneer and really bringing attention to all of the issues around drinking and driving. And we've been very, very successful and continue to be successful in that.
And when this woman started Mothers Against Drunk Driving, if someone was killed by a drunk driver, people thought, oh, that's a shame. And that was it.
Right.
But now the attitude is, okay, you caused this death of a person, you'll do jail time. So the attitude, the cultural attitude has changed, has it not?
Well, the cultural attitude has changed, and it's going to change even more, because Matt really has a focus that we call the campaign to eliminate drunk driving. Mm-hmm. And so there are three prongs to that. One is to work very closely with law enforcement. We are huge advocates of the DUI checkpoints. They have been shown to reduce drunk driving, and it's really curtails it. The other issue
You're saying that when the police are out and they are pulling drivers over, that's very helpful to stop drunk driving.
Yes, that curtails drunk driving. It really does. And so there's all kinds of statistics that support that. Another area that we support is ignition interlock, which is a device that's put onto a car which requires a perpetrator really to blow into it before they can drive that car. And so that's another technology. It's in the pilot phase right now in California, but it's been very, very successful. And something that we are working on that's that's going to be our trend is a technology where when anyone actually gets into an automobile, it's going to be a touch-based technology where anyone who touches a steering wheel, that car will be able to detect what that blood alcohol level is.
No kidding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So that's our new trends, and that's the new technology that we're working on. We have a lot of support in that area, and we're really excited about that opportunity. But that would be amazing. So just imagine what that would be like if anyone could get into their car, and I don't care who it is, and if they touch their steering wheel, and if their blood alcohol level is at 0.08 or above, their car is not going to start. And so that would eliminate a lot of the pain that a lot of people who go through the senseless, these deaths, that it really could avoid all of that. So we're really, really excited about that.
All right. By way of perspective, you mentioned that in 2012, there were 10,300 deaths caused by drunk drivers nationwide.
Yes.
And when the organization was founded, how many deaths were there nationwide?
It was about 56% more than that.
So it was like 16,000 people a year.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've had considerable impact in terms of curtailing the number of deaths as it relates to drinking and driving. So I talked about the number for nationally being 10,322. Well, here in California, we had over 800. So if we just look at, these are senseless deaths as we talk about it. And something that you and I have talked about also that's even catches home for me is the children. 226 of those national deaths were children. Mm-hmm. And these are children that happen to be in cars with a drunk driver that chose to drive with their kids or some other young person in the car with them. So as we talk about the holidays and everything one has to do to be festive and be with their loved ones, we just really want to bring attention to the fact that we would like for every responsible adult to drink responsibly and just don't drink and drive, or find some alternative way to get to where you're going.
This is a tough question. So what does responsible drinking mean exactly?
Well, responsibly drinking means, Matt does not advocate that you don't drink, and I think that's one of the misnomers is that most people think, well, Matt says you don't drink. Well, no, that's not what Matt's saying. Matt's saying drink responsibly. And so responsibly means most people can gauge when they feel like they have a little bit too much to drink or they have a buzz or whatever. And so you know yourself. And so men tend to metabolize alcohol a little differently than women.
Because they weigh more in general, or just kind of physiologically they do a better job of handling alcohol?
All of the above. Mm-hmm. All of the above. So as a standard, one would say 2 drinks is typically, so that would be 2 glasses of wine or 2 beers or whatever, can be considered a stop point for most people. If you exceed that, that's going to take the average person, and it differs, but we would say the average person into a zone that's going to take you into that risk factor of being intoxicated. And so when we talk about drinking responsibly, if you drink 1 glass of wine and you get in a car and you feel comfortably that you can drive, that we would consider responsible. If you drink 3 or 4 glasses of wine and get in a car, that's clearly not a responsible driver. And so that's what we're suggesting.
And people who, and also the consumption of alcohol is also weight dependent. So
yes.
If you are a little slim, 107-pound woman, and you drink a glass of wine, that might really just knock you out. That's too much, because you're
right.
only, instead of a 200-pound guy drinks that he is 200 pounds.
Right. And another factor, too, is it depends also if you are a person who drinks or not.
Right.
A person who tends not to drink very often gets intoxicated faster than one who tends to drink more often. So a lot of those factors have to be taken into consideration. But one knows, you know yourself. If you were to drink, you know what your gauge is. And so people need to just pay attention to the gauge and just find some alternative way of getting home or to your next destination. That's really what we're asking.
And what's on the agenda for MAD now? Obviously, problems with alcohol consumption are national problems, and I'm assuming that you don't win a victory then go home, that you win a victory and then you take a 10 minutes off and go right back to work. So what is coming up now that MAD is working on that we need to know about?
Well, the major thing that Matt is working on is what I touched on a little bit, is this technology that would allow every car to be equipped with a device, a touch device that can sense when one has had too much to drink.
That would, of course, let me just offer this. But that would be expensive, that new piece of technology.
Well, not really, because what we're advocating is that all automobile manufacturers install this as part of their standard procedures with their
safety
cars.
Equipment.
Absolutely. So this would be considered safety equipment. And so if you do it from that mass level, right now it doesn't appear that it's going to be an exorbitant amount of cost associated with it. But I think that that's a technology we're working on. We've been working on that for about the last 5 years. We're making a lot of progress, so that's huge. So that's number one.
Excuse me, you're working with people like Ford and GM and Chrysler on this, is that it?
We're working with all the automobile manufacturers and others in terms of the technology and what's going to work best, where to put it, which sensor should it be? Should it be on the steering wheel? Should it be on the door when you begin to open your door? Those types of conversations.
Because if I could just offer this as way of historical perspective, every time there's a safety advance, the car guys are opposed to it.
Yes,
the car guys were opposed to seatbelts.
Yes.
And in an effort, Ford, let me pick on Ford, in an effort to show you, they said people do not want seatbelts. Did they put the seatbelts in their Lincolns, their best cars? No. They put them in their fleet sales, their inexpensive cars. And they wanted to show that people didn't want to spend the money. But indeed, people did want seatbelts. And before there were seatbelts, people were opposed to safety glass.
Yes.
They were opposed to and they were opposed to the padded dash, and you name it. And they unfortunately have a terrible track record of being absolute dinosaurs on this subject. It's just really kind of sad when you look back on it, and it's like, I hate to pick on them, but whoa, their track record is not good.
Well, I think it's like anything else, Josh. I think it takes them out of their comfort zone. And so
too bad, if I can say so. Too bad.
Too bad. Yeah. Well, that's what we say too at MAD. But so I would say that they're not our best advocates at this point, but they're understanding our philosophy. Because let me tell you some more statistics. MAD recently did a survey, and in this survey, we asked the question: have you ever been to an event and saw someone who was not able to drink, but they got in a car and drove away anyways. And 73% of those people who were polled in that survey said that they had been at an event and saw people leave. So when you look at those kind of statistics, there has to be some kind of technology that addresses that issue, that is standardized for all vehicles, that is not just for this one particular industry or one particular manufacturer. We want to eliminate drunk driving. So in order to do that, we would have to standardize that process with all of the automobile manufacturers, whether they like it or not. So we're hoping that at some point they will get on the bandwagon with us, and we're going to have a fun time, and we'll have a conversation where these numbers will be a lot lower as it relates to drinking and driving.
And not only do we have problems with fatalities, but what about accidents where people think, oh my God, I broke my back because some drunk hit me, or I lost an arm, or, something awful happens. How many of those occur?
Well, every minute. There is an injury every minute in the United States as it relates to drinking and driving. And that's the part that I think a lot of people forget about, because we do put a lot of emphasis on the people who lose their lives. And that's important. That's a tragic statistics. But there's a huge number of those people who are impaired. Because they will never be able to walk, they will never be able to drive, they will never be able to work.
Right.
And these are young people too.
Right.
These are people that we see on a regular basis with MAD. And so to see someone who, let's say, is 13 and in a wheelchair, and that person's life really has just been cut short as a result of an irresponsible drunk driver, it's really tragic, Josh. It really is.
Oh, it is tragic, and also it costs society great sums of money.
Yes.
It's a burden on not only the poor person who is injured and in a wheelchair for the rest of their life and they're not getting out of that chair, but also for society in general. It's a real problem.
Yes, it is. It costs millions and millions of dollars to taxpayers to subsidize that. So this time of the year, where all of these numbers are increased because there's more drunk drivers on the road, we really just want your listeners to be sensitive to the idea that, these are people's lives that they're taking away. These are loved ones. And while they're celebrating this holiday around, Christmas and New Year's with their loved ones, there are many, many people who have empty chairs at their tables.
Right.
And those people have lost their lives innocently and senselessly as a result of a drunk driver.
Right.
And so that's a really, really tragic outcome.
It is. For those of you just tuning in to Here's to Your Health today, we're speaking with Pat Lietta, president of MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, an important organization to help us have safer roads. California is a progressive state, and we have also, do we have 11% of the population of the country?
Yes.
Now when you were first on, I believe you mentioned, or one of your staff mentioned, that in California at traffic stops, we arrest 200,000 drunk drivers a year. Was that correct? Was it 300,000 or 200,000?
Well, let me just tell you in LA County what we did. In LA County in 2011, which are the latest statistics that we have, there were 14,775 intoxicated drivers arrested.
In what year?
2011.
2011.
So those are latest statistics. So statistics for 2012 come out in about another month or so.
14,000 people.
That's
wow.
almost 15,000 people that are drunk drivers
that you caught.
That we caught. And so that's why with MAD, law enforcement are natural partners with us. We are huge supporters of law enforcement and what they do to take these drunk drivers off the street and to make the streets safer for everyone.
And when someone gets caught, so let's talk about penalty now. A person is driving, that person, the police pull them over, they do a sobriety test, that person flunks the test, goes to jail, then what happens?
Well, it depends. It depends on if it's a first-time offender or second. I mean, there are a lot of processes that they go through. But ultimately, they will be arrested. That's what will happen. And the total cost for this whole process that they will go through is going to be somewhere around $12,000 to $13,000 for that individual.
Which is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And in addition to that, they're often sent to classes that are conducted by MAD, which are called Victim Impact Panel classes. And these are classes that actually talks to them about their behavior. And oftentimes we have victims or families of the victims who talk to them about their loss and how tragic that loss is. So it's a huge, huge responsibility for these individuals to go out and be responsible. Law enforcement actually has a new program called right now called Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over. And Matt is a huge supporter of law enforcement with this Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over because we advocate that, to take these drunk drivers off the street if they're not in a condition where the streets are safe at all. So during this time, which is typically from, as I said, Thanksgiving to New Year's Eve, law enforcement and Mothers Against Drunk Driving works very, very closely together in terms of educating the community and really kind of being out there and being the voice.
And also, when they arrest you, what do they do to your car, and when do you get your car back?
Well, they impound your car, and so and oftentimes your driver's license are revoked as well. So it's
they take your license away.
Your license are revoked. Your car is impounded. And then you have issues around your employment. You have to explain to your employer. There are a lot of risk factors around drinking and driving and being caught. And it's not a very positive experience either. But it's by design that it's not a positive experience.
And so they keep your car for a day or two? Is there a standard thing they do with your car?
Well, it's not a standard thing, and it all depends. It depends on which offense it is, if it's your first offense, your second, or where you are in that cycle. And that really is more determinant in terms of what they do, but your car will be impounded. Absolutely.
And now here's a topic that's of importance. How many people do the police catch multiple times? They have a problem with alcoholism and other substances, and you catch them 4, 5, 6 times. I mean, what happens when they catch you 4, 5, 6 times?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of things that happen, and it depends on which county. Here in Los Angeles County, you get caught, and for some of those offenders, they are required to get the ignition interlocked device. So that's the trend now. So that's where we're hoping at Mothers Against Drunk Driving that it becomes a standard that all offenders, whether they're first offenders or their third or fourth offense, that if they're caught drinking and driving and they're intoxicated, that they're required to have the ignition interlock device. And so that's kind of the trend right now. That's what they're going into. And that's, as I said, that's becoming very, very successful.
And really, Mothers Against Drunk Driving supports that, promotes that, and feels like this really is an important answer at this time technologically.
Oh, absolutely, because at least there's some level of control there. Because when one goes to get into that vehicle, they have to blow, and that when they blow into this device, it actually monitors their blood alcohol levels. And if their blood alcohol level is too high, that car is not going to start. So they're forced to look for an alternative way home. They're going to have to call someone. They're going to have to take a taxi. They're going to have to take public transportation, some other alternative. And so it forces them into what we would like them to do anyways. And so it's a great deterrent for us at this point.
California, as I see California, is one of the progressive states in the country, and I think that's a good thing. And with health and safety issues, the state does well. Possibly could do more in some areas, but does well in general. Is there any particular state or states that really, as a national organization, you think we'd like you to do more? I'm putting you on the spot too much there?
Well, a little bit on the spot, because I think there are some states to do a little bit better than others. But California is a progressive state, so I would say that we're in the top tier in terms of trends, in terms of trying new technologies. I think there are some states on the East Coast, and Connecticut in particular. Connecticut actually does really well in terms of some technologies that they use and some new strategies. So no, I couldn't say really if there's one state that I would say that could do better, but I would say that some of the southern states probably are not as progressive.
And unfortunately, some of the southern states where they produce alcohol as an important industry, you know, they make money producing alcohol, so those people have clout, so they kind of think, we're going to, you know, not do too much here because we're making money selling you bourbon, etc. I'm not picking on them. I'm just kind of pointing this as an issue.
It is a little bit of an issue, but another part of that, Josh, too, is that there are some of those individuals within those southern states, and I shouldn't pick on the southern states, but in some states, that don't really see alcohol as a big issue. they see drugs as more of an issue than alcohol, and that's because they're in that industry. That's their liability. I mean,
and drugs are a
their-
problem too. People impaired using any substances is they smack the car into your house. You're not happy. So that's also an issue. By the way, how does MAD address that? A person high on prescription medications, or maybe not even purposely trying to be high on prescription medications, but taking too much pain meds for their back, and they smack the car up anyway. What's the issue there?
Well, it's the same thing. We consider that to be impaired driving.
And so does the state.
Right, exactly. So when MAD originally started 32 years ago, we started on the premise of drunk driving. That was our major issue. Now, progressing 32 years, we not only have alcohol to worry about, but there's drugs and there's all kinds of things. So we kind of lump it together, and it's all impaired driving, and we're all concerned about all of it. And we approach it all the same way. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be alcohol. It could be impaired driving. So as we began to develop programs for our underage, for the youth, the underage prevention programs that we have, we call it impaired driving versus drunk driving because the terms are different now.
Right. Well, that's important.
Yeah.
And what percentage of people that police pick up have either, let's say they don't feel well and they're taking stuff for their back, and they take too much one day or whatever, and they are impaired. So what percentage of that of those kind of arrests occur from let me use the word legitimate use of medication?
Well, you know what? I think that's a small percentage.
Small percentage.
Because I think law enforcement is trained enough to be able to decipher the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's their skill set. They are skilled enough to know an individual who actually may have taken a little bit too much pain medication versus one who is abusing pain medication. I mean, they're very versed in that, and they can literally look in the eyes of a person when they have these DUI checkpoints and whatever, and they know the difference. MAD participates with law enforcement, and we're often at a lot of those DUI checkpoints. And
really?
Absolutely.
You send an observer? Is that it? So to speak?
Yes, we put on the vest and we go and we hang out with law enforcement and we do what they do.
And they're happy to see you there? You're kind of a civilian monitor?
No, they encourage us. So we're partners. We're natural partners. So they invite us out. And so as they're stopping people and we hand out our MAD literature, and we work very, very closely together. And I would say that's probably our closest relationship is with law enforcement. So we recognize law enforcement for what they do. We have a huge event where we recognize all of the law enforcement officers in Los Angeles County who have DUI arrest, and it's a big deal that we make out of it because we really.
What event is that?
Well, it's an event. It's a MAD event that we do with various police officers, but we recognize them, for their dedication to making our streets safe, and they invite MAD staff out to be part of their DUI checkpoints. And so we're just a friendly face. I mean, we're not there for arrest or anything. We're just there to share information and to ask people to drive and drink responsibly. So, no, we're actively there.
And by the way, Pat, at this point, how can we contact you and join MAD and find out about your events?
You can contact us at, I'll give you the phone number. It's 310-215-2905, or go to our website at www.mad.org/Los Angeles, and that will take you to the Los Angeles website. And we're open to, if anyone would like to come and volunteer with MAD, would like to share information about something with MAD, or need victim services. One of the things I think that a lot of people don't know about MAD is MAD provides free victim services.
And what are victim services?
Victim services are services that for anyone who has been affected by a drunk driver. So that could be one of those individuals that we talked about who may have been injured, or someone who may have lost a loved one. Mm-hmm. And we do everything from the counseling, supporting them with counseling, all the way up to really accompanying them to court and helping them to kind of navigate through that whole court system. Because most people at that point are so distraught, they have no idea what to do or where to go. And so we basically kind of take their hand and we kind of walk them through that process. So sometimes it's just really, they just need someone to cry with, someone to talk to, and we do that. Other times, if they're going to prosecute the drunk driver and they don't really know how that process works, we take them step by step through how that works and how to
they
be
can
successful.
Legally use the law
Yes.
to the court system to address the the damage done to them by a drunk driver.
Absolutely.
You help them.
Absolutely. And
So you help them get an attorney, or what do you do?
Yes, we actually have a referral system of attorneys, and we walk them through that entire step. We go to court with them each time they go to court, to trial, or whatever. We're there all the way through. And these are free services. And so these are part of the free services that MAD offers. And the other part that MAD offers are community education. And so we're constantly having classes in the community that educates the community about underage drinking as it relates to the teenagers and to the parents and the parents' responsibility, as well as other tactics and strategies in terms of adults, what they can use in terms of getting a designated driver. So if they don't know a friend or if they don't have someone who can come pick them up, we tell them about some alternatives or give them referrals. But we have a lot of free services that we offer, and you can get that information by calling 310-215-2905.
Let me have that number just once again.
310-215-2905, or visit our website at www.mad.org/Los Angeles.
And does MAD, I know you have events regularly.
Yes.
Is anything coming up that you're promoting?
Not that we're promoting right now. We're actually just closing out 2013. And so we have a lot of things that we will be planning for 2014, but nothing big that we have coming up right now. But I'll come back to your show, Josh, when I come closer to that.
That sounds like fun.
Okay.
And you also, now, it wasn't too long ago, didn't you have a walk for MAD at Long Beach?
We did. We had an event called Walk Like Mad, and Walk Like Mad is the signature fundraiser for MAD, and it's a national walk. It's a 5K walk, and really the purpose of that walk is to get together all of these people who have lost loved ones and create a special event that kind of shows these individuals that we're there for them, we understand what they're going through, and we will never let their loved ones' names, just go unknown. And so we had about 1,000 people who got together in Long Beach. Oh. It was a wonderful, wonderful event, and it was so meaningful to so many of those families that were there. And it's amazing to see that many families come out, because I can tell you, out of that 1,000 people, probably 90% of those were victims or victims' families. So those weren't even, just the general public coming in. Those were people who were actually personally impacted by a drunk driver. So that was really, really important, and that's really, really special. And part of that, we do a tribute. And as part of that tribute, we talk a little bit about some of those families. And we put a human face to those people, because sometimes, unless you're touched by it personally, I mean, you can hear, someone lost a loved one in a drunk driving situation, but unless that's personal to you, it's really kind of distant. And so we try to personalize it. We try to put a face and talk a little bit about what those individuals were doing before they were killed by a drunk driver. Right. And the fact that they actually had life plans and life goals. Right. And all of those goals were cut short innocently and unnecessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's an important concept, and Pat Riera from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. It's a great pleasure to have you on my show today.
It's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for always inviting me.
It's been fun and informative and important.
Yes.
You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Hello, this is Angela DeJoseph. Join me Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific for the Angela DeJoseph Show. Join me as we venture into health, wealth. We're going to give you news, interviews, and entertainment. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, Live 365, Radio Flag, TiVo Radio, and now live on Facebook. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Lewis Logan, inviting you to join me every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon for Faith on the Front Line. We don't just talk about it, we are about it. That's our motto. Don't just talk about it, be about it. We highlight the issues and challenges that we face today and how faith communities and leaders make a difference. So don't forget to tune in to Faith on the Front Line, exclusively here on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B and watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hello, I'm Joel Ramirez.
And I'm Lolita Robinson Coppage, and welcome to Joy in My House
On LATalkLive.com. Inspirational radio
with a touch of recovery.
A reality show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who says it.
Exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Barbara Perkins, inviting you to join us every Sunday afternoon at 2:40 for Sisters at the Well Radio, a conversation with women about women. Join us as we share stories about current events, jazz events, business opportunities, health and wellness, entertainment, and so much more. So don't forget to tune in Sundays at 2:40, exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Season's greetings. This is Richard Carr, station manager at LA Talk Live, and I just wanted to take a moment out to thank all of our listeners out there who help to make LA Talk Live the internet's newest and hottest destination for beautiful music and invigorating talk. And I wanted to send out my heartfelt holiday wishes to all of our listeners worldwide and wish you all the very best of holiday seasons. Here's to peace, prosperity, and good health in the new year. Thanks for listening to LA Talk Live, and thanks for your support. Happy holidays to everyone.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. This is our Christmas show, Christmas of 2013, and it's my great pleasure to have my co-host, Dr. Hans Kugler, on the show to report about the anti-aging convention he attended and promoted in Las Vegas last week at the Venetian. Dr. Kugler, welcome back to the show.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be here.
And now the A4M group, what's the exact name of the group?
American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. Right? I mean,
And you were one of the founders with Dr. Ron Klotz of that?
yeah.
Yes.
As a matter of many, many years ago, well, it wasn't really that many years ago, around 1974 to 78, we were all totally distressed with what's going on in medicine, right? Because nobody was looking for real cures. It was drugs, 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 and so on. And there were several different groups founded. I founded the International Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, right? You can see more about this at antiagingforme.org or drhanskugler.com. Then there was the American Academy Anti-Aging Medicine. This is worldhealth.net. This is the group that we all sponsored and supported, right? Because there were about 5 different groups. And instead of each one of us, trying to hustle along and grow a little bit, we decided, no, for the overall good, it would be definitely better to really pick one group. And I knew Dr. Ron Klotz, the president of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. Down-to-earth, solid guy, good friend, and so on. And I was with this vitamin company at that time, Gerovita. We had a magazine called the Journal of Longevity. We gave them free advertising. We sponsored, advertised, et cetera, right? And then there was the ACAM, American College of Advancement in Medicine, right? And it was absolutely magnificent, the meeting. Last week, there's so many different parts to that meeting. The most impressive for the laypersons, and that's really a very important part, laypersons can attend this Congress actually designed for health professionals, right? But see, if you're a little bit informed, you can really, you can understand the lectures and everything that's going on, right? And if you don't, you can read up about it and so on, right? So we have magnificent lectures from every aspect.
Excuse me, and may I ask, so this was held about a week ago at the Venetian in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
How many people were in attendance at this convention?
Well, I would say about 5,000.
5,000 is great.
Right. Oh, it's magnificent. And the group is now growing bigger and bigger. I believe they have something like 30,000 plus members, right? And what was impressive was the exhibition floor. All the different groups, research groups, companies, vitamin companies, nutrition companies, compounding pharmacies. It was rows and rows and rows of each one of them was just fascinating.
Before we went on the air today, you mentioned the compounding pharmacies. So what are the compounding pharmacies adding to the picture?
Well, here it gets a little bit political.
Okay, go ahead.
No, it's perfectly fine with me. I love to talk about this, right? What do we have from Orthodox medicine? In essence, if you want to follow a true anti-aging approach, it is a several-layer approach. The very first layer is the foundation. Those are all the health practices, from exercise to detoxing to nutrition to environment to stress factors, et cetera, et cetera.
And these topics you just mentioned, you're a student and a colleague of Dr. Emanuel Sharaskian, and these ideas of Sharaskian and your ideas are not just perks. These are the foundation ideas that give us the health and longevity.
Totally. Right. Professor Sharaskian was the brain of this field. He was a genius. People used to go to his lectures just because he was so funny,
yes,
right?
He was.
And he could bring his message across, right? And then at that time, people used to just say, oh, well, it's just all health practice. It's not really. No, it isn't. Because with telomere research, those extensions at the end of your DNA molecules, they've now shown that good health practices are true anti-aging modalities, right? And one part of this meeting was there are several laboratories now. They will do an analysis. They do a blood analysis. They can measure your telomeres. Wow. They can measure actually how old you really are. Older or younger than your birth certificate, right?
That's interesting.
And
you feel that's scientifically valid?
That's right, totally. Okay. Oh, totally. As a matter of fact, one of the groups actually established that the good health practices increase telomere length. Now, this is also bad health practices, right? That shorten things, stress, smoking, and so on and so on. It's totally demonstrated.
Stress and smoking will shorten telomeres.
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's a number of supplements, vitamins, minerals, and everything else, and special nutrients. But a key factor here with the telomere shortening is that stress, for example, shortens it. And guess what? The strongest telomere lengthening effect is it's not only exercise, it is muscle exercise.
Muscle exercise.
No,
Wow.
well, I mean, I don't really scare the women, right? Because see, I do personal counseling in Torrance,
Yes.
right? And I do anti-aging counseling for all kinds of people, right? Health Integration Center, 326-8625 in the 310 area, and so on. You can look me up too. But anyway, when we do this, women are very often telling me, number one, I don't want to become muscular like a
Right.
man,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so on. And there is absolutely nothing to worry about because the new exercise program that we are following is actually designed by our Dr. Paul Ward, very famous Olympic trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And it is your choice how to exercise. You can exercise if you wanted to build some muscle. As a matter of fact, a lot of women doing this too. I ask them, look in the mirror. Look at your shoulders, hip ratio, and everything else. Whatever you want to build, you exercise along the lines of building muscle, right? Because the silhouette alone, if a woman builds a little bit in her shoulders, loses a little bit weight in the middle, oh, that difference is just absolutely amazing, right?
You know, I do find that many women in Los Angeles like to show off their arms now.
Uh-huh.
And I would say that's a new, I'll use the word fashion trend
Mm-hmm.
that I don't remember seeing 10 or more years ago. But recently I've seen women who really want to show you that they have very nice arms.
Uh-huh.
And that I think is kind of new.
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah, and it's a new trend, but it's also. I say it belongs into our times, right?
Yes, yes.
I mean, here's a little bit of personal story, right? A couple of years ago, we were at in Redondo Beach, one of the beach bars, right? And one of the ladies, friend of mine, some guy, a big guy, comes on and gives her a drink. Here, drink with me. She says, "No, sorry, I don't want to drink," and so on. She can't take no for an answer, right? And he actually grabs her and gives her a drink.
Oh, dear.
And out of nothing, she just wham right into his face, and the guy is laying on the floor.
Wow.
A couple of us, we stepped in between and said, "You deserve it."
Oh, my goodness, yes.
And I mean, this is nothing really new, and then, I really like that idea.
Well, that's a cute story. And by the way, also, you are always very fit, but you seem very fit. Are you doing different exercises now?
Not really. I'm pushing a little bit harder.
And excuse me, you're now 79 years old.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're 51.
Women, you didn't hear that.
That's okay.
Yeah, a few days ago, I turned 79. Could you imagine a few more months, I'm going to be 80? I mean, I always thought about 80. Oh, this is ancient. When I thought about people with 80, they were falling apart and they need help from under. They walk with a cane and all this like
Well,
that.
maybe 50 years ago that was true. And so let me ask you the question, put you on the spot. So now that you are 79, what do you think?
Everything still works.
Everything still works, and do you also feel that intellectually you're still putting out excellent books and pamphlets? You're still doing intelligent counseling, so you're still happy to be involved with these scientific ideas.
Oh, totally. As a matter of fact, I mean, I didn't bring it up. You brought it up. My recent presentation at the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine that I gave in Orlando was honored by having it included in a medical textbook. Right?
Oh, really?
And
very nice.
it deals with the mechanisms how genetically modified foods can actually interfere with your health.
Good for you.
Right?
Yes.
And it goes into all kind of dirty politics, et cetera, et cetera. And at that time, a mechanism for how things happen in your body. For example, if something needs to stimulate your immune system because you're subjected to some virus or something like this,
Right.
I mean, there's a certain mechanism there. A messenger chemical comes to the surface of the cell. There's the lock and key mechanism. It passes along the message to the internal, to the DNA, and triggers off everything. Well, the biggest excuse from Monsanto people and the garbage food suppliers and everything else, all these people used to say, "Oh, well, yeah, that's kind of interesting, but, it's far from being established, that mechanism." Well, guess what? A few months ago, Nobel Prizes were given. No, not to me, too bad. But two people, Duke University and Stanford, to prove that lock and key mechanism is actually correct. Now
see.
they can't argue about that anymore, right?
So
And,
do they have any? What's the argument they have now?
Oh, well, hot air.
Hot air. Okay, no, okay, well, hot air seems to sell a little bit. So let's go back to the at the A4M conference,
meeting, yeah.
the compounding pharmacies.
Uh-huh.
What are the compounding pharmacies adding to us?
Okay. Imagine we have the foundation or the health practices. The next step up is hormone replacement, right?
Hormone replacement.
Hormone replacement, yes. Because to trigger your reactions in your body from anything from leaning to muscle mass to increasing metabolism to dealing with some toxins in your body, that is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
And the toxins that we are subjected to, and that's really why I'm always...
Toxins, you're talking about pollutants from gasoline, etc.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Environmental toxins, genetically modified foods, and all this junk, right?
Right.
I mean, you can't even buy this crap in Europe, when here we don't even have the right to know what's in it. I mean, it's disgusting, but it's happening. I mean,
No, so this is for the viewers.
Mhm.
So genetically modified foods in the 15-member European Union, they are not allowed. What's the story about genetically modified foods?
If they really push to get them on the market in Europe, they have to prove with very special long-term experiments that they are really safe.
Mhm.
And most of those foods don't make it over there, right?
Right.
So naturally, they sell them over here, you know. But anyway, let's get back to the hormone replacement therapy.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Orthodox medicine, what do you have? Hormone replacement therapy. A man comes to the doctor, he says, Doc, you know, I'm getting a little bit older, and how about some testosterone shots, right? And the doctor will say, oh, testosterone is a higher risk for prostate cancer, et cetera, et cetera. Well, total nonsense. Again, at A4M, one of the Harvard professors, and that's why nobody's arguing with this guy, right? I mean, many years ago, he said, it's common sense to give some hormone, some testosterone. So, but along the lines, he did biopsies and kept studies. And guess what? What he found is it's not that the increase of testosterone is a prostate cancer risk. The highest cancer risk is with the lowest testosterone, right? And he wrote a book, Testosterone for Life, and he gives many interesting sections, right, at the A4 meetings about, it's not just like, for example, when you take testosterone, you can't just take testosterone every day. Like, for example, your testosterone level is here it should be, so you make up the difference. No, if you do that, your body will say, I have enough, and therefore it will shut down its own mechanism. Then you have to take more, and then your body will shut down more, and you have to take more, and so on and so on. And that leads to testicular atrophy. However, if you understand the mechanism, it's very simple. You do 9 days on, 9 days off, and when you do the 9 days off, the testosterone drops down to literally zero. Your body says, wow, I don't have any. I better make my own. And it makes your own, and then you put the extra testosterone on top of that, and so on. And magnificent.
Right.
And there's also, for example, HCG, human chorionic gonadotrophin, that activates gonadotrophic functions. And so, I mean, everything is zooming,
Excuse me,
right?
on the HCG, are we talking about an injectable form?
Yeah.
And that's really the best form? That is the legitimate form?
Yeah.
And what does it do for me?
And, well, it stimulates gonadotrophic functions, right? I mean, your male organs to produce testosterone,
Yes.
right? And when it does that, we do this after a time of not taking any testosterone. You are almost low. Now your body says, I need to make my own. It makes its own. Now you give an HCG shot to activate it even more. It really revs it up. And then you put the extra testosterone on top of it. And believe me, it zooms.
And so you just feel alive.
Right. A man of literally any age. I mean, there are so many things more one can do nowadays. I mean, I tell you, see, an older man, number one, knows a little bit more, has a better understanding of things like this, of anything, how this thing works, and women and so on and so on. They're very special creatures. You know, I mean, I always told you before, they come from different galaxies, you know. But it's really kind of fun. But anyway, okay, that's the male part.
Yes.
How about the female part? Hormone replacement. Woman, doctor says, well, you know, your estrogens are dropping down. Maybe we should put you on estrogens. Well, what are the estrogens that they give them? Right? What is it?
Horse urine, isn't it?
You can say it. You can say it loud.
Horse urine.
Horse piss.
Horse piss.
That's what it is. This is the most.
Horse urine has a nicer ring to it, Hans.
Right.
But,
well, yeah. But see, when you have a problem, you ought to better point it out, right? Because this is the most disgusting thing in medicine.
Right.
They keep hundreds and thousands of horses standing there lined up pregnant. They collect the urine and they extract from the urine Premarin. Well, it's an interesting name, but just Premarin actually says pregnant mare urine, right? That's what it says. And that's really all. But that is the dumbest thing when it comes, especially to female hormone replacement. You have to consider 4 different types of estrogen-related things. By the way, in men too, when you take testosterone as one of the side products, it forms actually an estrogen. It's called estradiol. Well, that's bad. No, it really isn't bad. If you know your nutrients, you take a very simple nutrient called DIM, diindolyl methane, right? And you can actually keep that estradiol in normal ranges, bring it down, right?
I see.
And so you have...
And of course, the bodybuilders use the DIM products.
Well, oh yeah,
Right.
sure. So you have the foundation, all the health practices, and more we find how to define those health practices correctly, right? I mean, years ago we used to say exercise and nutrition and stress management and so on. No, today it's exercise and detoxing. Because a lot of these things, including the genetically modified food and all this other blank, what you get, for example, with the genetically modified corn, right? I mean, they have a genetically modified corn that contains a lot of pesticide. Well, they
Right.
don't want to admit to it, but that's the reality. Because they designed the corn this way. When the corn gets ripe, the bugs come in, they want to eat it. Well, the corn will make its own pesticide. But it keeps making that pesticide all the time. And when you eat it, and that was an important study, and here it goes really again into truly dirty business.
Right.
When you feed test animals the genetically modified corn, as Professor Serolini from Cayenne University in France did, and the pictures are available on my website, drhanskugler.com, right, or antiagingforme.com, and I mean, you just look at that Serolini, and you will see, I mean, the test animals, tumors and cancers and organ malfunctions and so on. Well, guess what? When this happened, Monsanto triggered, they made several different people, I wonder how much money they paid for that, right, write letters to the editor saying, oh, this is a questionable research, et cetera, et cetera. And guess what the editor did? I mean, a lot of us, we are writing to them very just simply. We write address to them and we just say, shame on you, right? You know what they did? They replaced the editor with a executive from where? Monsanto, right?
Wow.
I mean, this is about the dirtiest business that's going on, and this is going on in Orthodox medicine, right? And what is the result of that? Every year, international organizations release the ranking of different countries in the world, okay?
As far as health.
Yeah.
Right.
This year, again, the release was the U.S. is number 37, 47, and 52 in the world. I mean, with our capacity, we could be the best, you know? I mean, some people, they all blame it on Obama. I mean, I'm certainly not an Obama supporter. I think the guy is really anti-American. But whatever, that's my personal opinion. But when it comes to overall health,
yes,
the real important part is to look at science, what science says we should be doing. And we are not doing that.
I
right?
see.
I mean, 52 in the world? We are outdone by underdeveloped countries that are lucky enough to have a good climate, that have a little bit good climate so they can raise crops and animals, right? And maybe they're not having enough money to buy our drugs. That's why they are ahead of time, you know?
Well-
So anyway, so we have the basic, the foundation, we have the hormone replacement and so on. And then we have a whole bunch of companies, I mean, that are really new. You know, There is one company, it's called allergyresearchgroup.com.
Oh, yes, they've been around for a while. wasn't it?
Allergyresearchgroup.com. Yeah.
Was that Stephen Levine's group that he founded that?
Stephen Levine.
Steve Levine,
Yes,
sure.
I met him again. Man, the guy looks good. And
He looks good.
I mean, and that is a company, I've known them for many years. Good quality product, common sense product, research is up to date. I mean, this is really nice. Okay? Well, you have one of them. Then we had somebody actually on the show here with the microlingual, right?
Oh, yeah, the microlinguals, right. Mhm.
Yeah, and what is the...
Superior Source.
Yeah, Superior Source.
They're manufactured here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, SuperiorSourceVitamins.com.
So that microlingual, you're happy with that whole idea?
Oh, absolutely magnificent. One of the best ideas in this whole field.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of us, like in the morning, if you see me, I mean, I get up in the morning, I feed my animals. While I feed my animals, I take a handful of vitamins. And really, it's a handful of vitamins. I mean, there's a whole, not only vitamins, supplements, minerals, et cetera, et cetera.
Because you feel that they have merit and you feel better when you take them.
Oh, totally. Totally. Absolutely. For fitness training, for anything else. I mean, it's just the most basic stuff.
Right.
I know there are people who take 2 or 3 times as much. But when you take all this, I mean, it's a lot, right?
And how do you keep your mass up?
Pardon? What do you mean?
How do you keep that nice chest and stuff? How do you?
The muscle mass. Oh, it's very simple. The correct protein intake, right? Maintain the metabolism at the right range.
Are you 5'10"? How tall are you?
About 5'11".
5'11".
5'11 and a half.
Okay,
I
5'11",
didn't
I'm
quite
sorry.
make it 6 feet.
Okay. You're 6 feet. And have you kind of maintained the same size since you're like 21 or something like that?
Well, yeah, but years ago when I had this extreme side impact car accident, we talked about this before, I had a side impact and it turned out it ruptured my heart. Within about a year, I lost 18 pounds of muscle. I came to the point where I mean, oh God, did I feel miserable, et cetera, et cetera. And then they finally,
And you had a tear. Was that, you had a tear? in
Yeah,
it?
I was at USC. They finally determined that that impact had ruptured part of my heart. My left atrium was bubbled out like a big bubble. I had an extreme heart irregularity. My capacity of my heart to pump out was only 28%. It was just absolutely miserable. But again, putting our heads together, alternative approaches, and we solved the whole problem. You know, again, anybody else who wants to know a little bit more about it, just send me an email or contact me via my website, drhanskugler.com. I will send you the whole paper, the recovery paper, which is also part of a medical textbook, right? Very happy about this. Okay, what else? So we have the Superior Source vitamins. That's an important part. We have the Allergy Research Group. And then here is something happening in the anti-aging field that is distressing a lot of people.
Yes.
A lot of people are taking growth hormone, HGH, right?
HGH.
Right. And the prices have gone sky high.
I see.
I looked into that.
As an injectable?
Yes. I looked into that, and there's no reason besides that somebody wants to get rich, right?
Right.
We, at our health center, the Health Integration Center in Torrance, with Dr. David Wong, we had him on the show here, right? I mean, he's a true Christian, right? I mean, he buys the various different formulas wholesale and only adds a few dollars in order to avoid these tremendous costs.
Right.
He tells me over the last 3 months, the growth hormone manufacturers raised the base price more than $150. It's getting to the point that you have to spend $600 a month for this stuff.
And for example, on human growth hormone, do you, for example, if I can ask a personal question, do you inject human growth hormone once every 9 days? I mean, how do you use the protocol? Because actually you look very vital, and obviously people want to know what you do.
Right. Well, see, it depends when you inject something, what this substance has as a half-life, right? I mean, how long it takes for half-life to be metabolized. With growth hormone, it's only 6 hours. So it suggests that cycling would not be important. However, working with Olympic trainers, we put athletes on growth hormone. I mean, they all had their prescription, nothing illegal. And some others were taking it on and off. And the on and off people, the cycling did much better.
On and off. And so what's the on and off cycle?
So in essence, I would say it's about 3 or 4 days on or 3 or 4 days off, right?
Right.
And so, like, for example, if you use the minimum is 5 milligrams per month. There is 3 units per milligram. So 5 milligrams, that's 15 units per month. That would be a half a unit per day, right? Now, if you now take twice as much, you take a whole unit for 4 days, and then nothing for 4 days, that gives you better results. Right?
I see.
And here's one of those.
That's what you and Dr. Wong do?
Right, yeah. Among other things. Now we're going into something new.
Right.
During the last meeting, and we talked about this already before, last year, at the A4M meeting, I met some people that were they were making a new preparation of velvet deer antler. Right?
Velvet deer antler.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Now, velvet deer antler is very well known. The way they used to make it in Oriental medicine is very simple. They grind up the deer antler, they boil it, and use that extract. Well, that was still effective. However, a newer method with very strong steel balls, they make an extremely fine grind. Then they extract it with something like equivalent of red wine, all natural.
All right.
Let it sit in the refrigerator, cold extract. And when you analyze that, you find in that there is IGF-1. Now, IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor, that is the substance that your doctor measures in a blood analysis to see if it would be justified to prescribe growth hormone for you, right? Now, I met these people over there and sort of challenged me. I was about ready to walk by, and I said, yeah, I know this. Other thing. I said, no, we have a new, and so I listened. Well, would you like to have a sample? It really triggered me off. I said, yeah, okay, fine. I took a sample, didn't think of anything.
A sample in what form, Dr. Kruger?
They have 3 different extracts. It's a 600, 800, or 1,500, I don't know, it's milligram per or whatever.
And these are injectables now?
No, they're sublingual.
Sublingual, okay.
They're sublingual. Okay. So I got the strongest one. And when I came home, I was supposed to start my growth hormone again, my main shots, but I didn't. I just used that. And I kept using that. And I was really worried that if I don't use the growth hormone, that I would lose some lean body mass, right? Well, guess what? I didn't. Well, at first,
you look very fresh. You look good. And
well,
since I see you on a regular basis, I know what you look like, and you look real strong. So this new stuff must be. Is this the new stuff? One of the things why you look better?
Oh, yes, definitely. And here's the important part: when I used this up, after about a month, body analysis, everything came out fine. I said, "Wow, this is really amazing." I mean, not taking growth hormone for a month and not losing a pound of muscle, that's unusual. So I called the company. I talked to some of their people who did the analysis, the research people, et cetera. They sent me some more things. I continued for a whole 3 months. And guess what? I actually gained 2 pounds of muscle mass, tightened up more. And the important part here is, this is so high-tech, quality stuff. Bioproteintech.com. That's the
What's that again?
website. Bioproteintech.com, right? You can save a lot of money. If you use this instead of the growth hormone, you get away with, I think it's around $200 a month supply. You can actually, what I'm doing right now, because of the growth hormone price increase, you normally take a few days on, a few days off. I take an extra day off to stretch it out a little bit more.
And that kind of still works?
And so on. Yeah, it still works. But I'm pushing more and more. I'm going towards the velvet deer antler, right? And so...
And again, velvet deer antler has a long history of use, but you feel the new technologies are making it even more valuable?
It's absolutely magnificent.
All
right? Take a look at it. It's all what I'm saying. Go to bioproteintech.com, right? And I mean, the people there are magnificent researchers. I've known them now for quite some time. Every time when I need to know something, I mean, I contact them, I call them, they send me the information. There's good science behind it. I mean, it's really impressive. And
that's nice to hear.
Just imagine if you have to pay $600 or even more for regular growth hormone, and you can get the same results for maybe $190 or $200.
Now, it seems like
I pay attention to that.
And also, the fact that I can take it orally rather than injectable, is that safer and better?
Well, growth hormone is actually considered very, very safe.
Okay.
I don't really know of any negative side effects. As a matter of fact, we know that some movie actors, famous people, when they're going out of the country, they record with 20 vials of growth
yes.
hormone.
Oh dear, yeah. Was
I
that
mean,
Sylvester Stallone, I believe that guy
right,
called
right.
Sylvester.
Right, but they didn't do anything. I mean,
Right.
that was he had a prescription, et cetera, et cetera. But there's absolutely, we have no indication that there's anything really bad about it. See, that's the nice thing about the natural substances. And that's, again, where the compounding pharmacies come in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're really springing up. And they're less expensive. It's all natural. It works. I mean, it is.
It's the best.
I mean, it's amazing, this stuff, I mean, we were really worried a little bit because there's a number of different groups that come up and, they're trying to do their thing and say, oh, God, I hope they're going to be doing good. Oh, they did very well. It was impressive. And by the way, we had.
Yes.
Guess what?
Arnold Schwarzenegger was there. Arnold was there. Very good.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's good.
Right?
It's always fun to see Arnold, I guess. It's very much fun to see him.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Kugler, it's been a great pleasure having you on the show today. And,
Well.
of course, you'll be back again in early January on the show, and you are a co-host.
Uh-huh.
And have a very good Christmas.
Very good Christmas, and God bless you.
God bless you. And thanks for tuning in today to this edition of Here's to Your Health. I'm your host, Josh Lane. Please stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
The American Heart Association's Heart Walk is coming. Bring your family, bring your friends, bring your coworkers. Help yourself and those around you to live longer, healthier lives. Form a team today and walk to help the American Heart Association defeat heart disease and stroke, two of the nation's leading killers. For more information, visit heartwalk.org.
Hey everyone, this is Richard Carr, Business Relations Manager for LA Talk Live. Did you know social media produces almost double the marketing leads of trade shows, telemarketing, direct mail, or even pay-per-click ads? And that about 46% of all online users count on social media when making that ever-important purchase decision. Hey, if you feel lost when it comes to social media, Top Tier Media can help you. Top Tier Media specializes in social media management and blogger outreach for beauty, fashion, health, and lifestyle brands. To learn more, go to www.toptiermedia.com. That's www.toptiermedia.com. Top Tier Media, the official social media marketing company of LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, I'm Jerry Bell of the Daz Band in New Birth.
And I'm Brahima Arsalan.
Inviting you to join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time for Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics, baby.
Join us as we play some of the greatest hits of soul and R&B and listen in to interesting discussions with the legends of the music.
So don't you forget, Join us on the Jerry Bells R&B Soul Classics. You'll love it. Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio.
Or watch us and listen directly at latalklive.com, baby.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure.
This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk, baby. We are music.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hello, this is Angela DeJoseph. Join me Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific for the Angela DeJoseph Show. Join me as we venture into health, wealth. We're going to give you news, interviews, and entertainment. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, Live 365, Radio Flag, TiVo Radio, and now live on Facebook. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Hi, this is Josh Lane of Here's to Your Health, and in honor of this special Christmas edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live network, we have just flown in from the North Pole, where he actually is a good friend of Santa's. We have Dr. Footsy, who's going to talk to us about important health issues. Dr. Footsy, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you. The trip wasn't too bad. I didn't wear enough clothes when I came in from the North Pole. But being that from the North Pole, I do have a cartoon character called Santo Claus.
I see.
I didn't happen to bring him with us.
Was Santa, was he possibly working today with the other elves, possibly?
Well, I think he was. He was
working.
a little tired.
He was busy.
He's been running around. He's cleaning the chimneys, whatever he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where he is.
Well, that's good.
Thank you, Josh.
And what do we do now for the children in Los Angeles as far as smoking?
Now, you know, smoking's a big problem and has been for many years. Do you know that over 400,000 people will have lost their lives and die every year from smoking-related illnesses?
Wow.
And it's very important. So what I've developed is little cartoon characters, actually called the New Feet on the Street, with a little music. And
The New Feet on the Street.
New Feet on the Street, NFOTS, or it could be no faded old T-shirts or something like that.
New Feet on the Street. I thought that was a boy band.
Boy band?
No?
I don't think.
Okay.
No, I
Sorry.
think they were New Kids on the Block.
Possibly, yes.
Something like that. I'm not too sure. Okay. So basically, when I've developed these programs for kids using cartoon characters, and the one that we'd like to kind of push a little bit more on is a character called Tobacco. Well, he's naturally the one that gets hooked on nicotine and eventually, hopefully, gets off of it. And we want to be able to impress and get to young kids at an early enough age. And this program has been approved, believe it or not, by the LA Unified School District, basically for kids second and third grades. I think it can go even younger, and it could even go a few more grades up higher. But education should be fun. And in order to you to learn something, you've got to be interested in it. Now, if I'm a character just like my cartoons, then so be it. I don't care if they laugh at you, with you. as long as we can leave them with a message. And that's the important thing. So, and again, I appreciate the opportunity of having me come on the program and be able to see what I'm about and what I'm trying to do. And the one thing today is, like I said, we've done several of these programs in second and third grade classes. I've done them in parks and recreation with young kids. And what we do is we pump them up with a little music. We get them with New Feet on the Street, just to put them in a good kind of mood, like they're okay. If you get up in the morning, yeah, thank you. I mean, so, and I can't see what they're playing now, but it's animated with my little characters, NEWFE. There's arthritis there, there's Totem Pole, there's Tomas, the four main characters of the New Feet on the Street. And then there's a guy named Bluto who's got cold feet, and he gets hooked on the drug ice, crystal methamphetamine, and he says, use ice, you deep freeze forever. And the talk... Everybody, we're on the right track. With the new feet on the street. Come on, keep on stepping with the times. With the new feet on the street. Everybody, we're on the right track. Stepping with the times. With the new feet on the street. NEWFEET, new feet on the street. Yeah! Out there. Now, basically, what I'd like to do now, Josh, is with the thing I've. Would you be able to get something for me over there, or can I get up and get it?
I will show on camera, so we'll just let it go.
Okay. And so with the 9 short story books
that was a very nice little cartoon, very nice.
Oh, you like that? Nice. Okay. Self-taught that I did the animation, did all the little music with a friend of mine, and then they sang it. And it's given it uplifting. But anyway, so what I've created it's the tale of tobacco. And what it is, and I think each kid gets a little, what I call a doggy bag. But, you feed your dogs. Right? I mean, that's what they always said, you feed your dogs. Right. So, and in this package, each kid is going to get a Dr. Footsie 20 tips health education program, okay? And 20 tips because the tips of the cigarette is the tip, and also because there's 20 cigarettes in a pack, etc. And then this thing here was a giant box that we put together with messages with the tips in it. And in this box, the kids get a membership card.
A membership card, official.
Well,
kit?
yeah, you got to join KICK, which is Keep It Clean with Knowledge.
Very nice.
Okay? KICK, okay? Then they get a butt kickers pledge. Naturally, they get them a smaller size, okay? And it says, Dr. Footsie says I shouldn't smoke. It will kill me, okay? And we become a member of the Butt Kicker Society in good standing. And so basically, that's what it is. Okay. And so this is what a little cover of the book would look like. Dr. Footenstein's, okay? Tales from Toland. This is the tale of tobacco. Anyway, so we will be able to play a little animated cartoon on the story, and hopefully the kids, you'll get a message out there, kids. I want you to listen, because you're going to be tested afterwards, and you're going to write a short story on what's happened. And for those that do well, and we make a prize and a winner, somebody's either going to get a T-shirt with my logo on it, or they're going to get one of the cartoon characters like Totem Pole on a T-shirt, or they will get a coloring book that we've created called Drug Mottos, which is, slogans on 12 different slogans with a crossword puzzle on tobacco and on drugs and on alcohol, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, it's called Drug Mottos. That's arthritis up there. Oh, you're not worried about that? That's Tobasco. He's the guy who get hot. He's the fireman. And then Totem Pole. Okay? So that's basically it. So, and then we will go over with the kids with the 20 cards. And if you, whenever you're ready and you want to play the story, be my guest.
Out of a pipe. Each time he would puff on the cigar, his eyes looked like they were rolling around in his head. His skin started to get a yellowish brown color. When Nick was a teen, he would pick up cigarette butts off the street that had been thrown away, and he would put them in his mouth. While the other feet were chewing gum, he was chewing tobacco. He always had a big wad in his bunion. While the other feet were learning to blow bubbles, Nick was learning to use the spittoon. He found one of his father's old pipes and tried using that. He was getting dependent on anything that was made of tobacco. The first thing that he did every morning before brushing his teeth was light up a cigarette. His room looked like downtown LA on a smoggy day. He lost his appetite to eat. All he wanted to do was smoke. Some days, he looked like an old chimney stack on a cold winter day with all the smoke rising out. He couldn't get rid of his cough. He was always clearing his throat. It felt like he had swallowed some shoe leather. No one wanted to be around him, especially those of the opposite foot. His clothes even started to smell like burnt toast, and he had a bad-smelling odor when he talked, like halitosis. He would get very tired when he played with the other feet, and as he got older, he got tired much sooner. He was always running out of breath. The smoking was affecting his health. And though he admitted it was not good for him, he continued to smoke. As Nick the teen got older, they nicknamed him Tobacco, as the color of his skin and his foot odor had taken on that appearance. His health had gotten worse, and if he wanted to live, he would have to kick the habit of using tobacco immediately. He tried many times in the past to stop smoking, but each time resulted in failure. This time was going to be different. He was quitting for good.
I'm throwing in the socks.
Nick had a friend of the opposite foot who he cared very much about. She had insisted that he had to make a choice between his smoking and her.
I'm waiting.
Her expensive shoes were always getting ruined from the smell of Nick's tobacco. That was just one reason. The other was that she loved him very much and didn't want to see him destroyed by Nick's teen habit. Breaking habits can be difficult, but it can be done. The longer your habit, the harder to break it. Nick the teen had finally seen the light at the end of the tunnel. This time, it wasn't a lit cigar. Some think smoking is cool. It makes them feel they are grown up, because adults, such as their parents, have always smoked around them. Don't let your life go up in smoke. Light up your life with education. Don't start.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that, young ladies and gentlemen.
Dr. Fitzy, I enjoyed it too.
Oh, you did
Yes,
too.
I did.
Well, I'm glad Josh, you're not a smoker, so hopefully you don't have to worry about it, but at least you'll know the harmful effects. But, what we're trying to do now with the package that each of these kids will receive and what's in it, we have 3 assorted postcards. And what we want each kid to do, from what you learned today on the harmful effects of smoking, we want you to be able to send a message to someone that you know, whether it's a relative, a neighbor, somebody that you want them to stop smoking. Because as I said before, 400,000 lives are lost each and every year due to tobacco use. And it's not like you just die and that's it. There's a lot of suffering that may go with it, with emphysema, lung cancer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's important that we do. So I want each kid to write a little story on what maybe they learned on what happened with tobacco. We will probably give a prize for the best story. We also have a coloring contest that we can have the teacher and the people give out to you on coloring kick butt, which is tobacco. And to the best prize, we will give another thing like a T-shirt, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the important part. But in the little box that you have in your packet, that's a little tobacco kind of folder holder, and what it is, it has in it 20 different. Well, the idea is you got to collect 20 cards, and you want to be able to what I call TLC, okay, which is trade, learn, collect. We want you to be able to, just like when I was a youngster and we would collect and save baseball cards and football cards, and we'd flip them where they were heads and tails and off the wall. And you had thousands of these things. It's too bad when I moved to California, my mother said, what do you need all this stuff? So she threw out all of them. I had a whole bunch of Jackie Robinsons, Mickey. Hey, I wouldn't have to be doing work now. I'd be okay. But anyway, so in this one package that people can purchase if they want, it's a complete set of your 20 cards and your your flip-top box and your your membership card, your pledge card, collector's box, as well as your 2 bonus cards. Now, the packet that each kid will receive will only be 4 trading cards, so you don't know which 4 you're going to get. You might have number 1, which may be brand your own, okay, where he shows a picture of tobacco and showing the different things and branding the cigarettes, etc. And on the back, the message is, brand your own. Tobacco brands you for life. It's a one-time thing. Once you get hooked, it's a very difficult thing to eliminate. Card number 2 is Butt Beach. It's showing tobacco down at the beach with using the cigarette butts and making a castle. And the message on the back says, Butt Beach, tobacco kills and destroys our beautiful beaches. Number 3, for those of you that, like me, and started smoking many years ago, there used to be a cigarette called Chesterfield. I don't know if they're still around. That's right. So I made it like Chester's Field. So tobacco is going through the tobacco field. And then the message on the back says, Chesterfield, don't press your luck. Farmers raise tobacco to kill. Number 4, showing tobacco over a commode or toilet bowl in the other one, and showing the cigarettes going down the drain. Just like your life, if you light up a cigarette, you're going down the drain. So number 4 says, down the drain. Flush tobacco out of your life. Number 5 is showing tobacco with a furnace there, and they're cooking and burning, and fill up more ashes. A little pun on Philip Morris, fill up more ashes, okay? And on the back it says, fill up more ashes. God created what tobacco industry has cremated. Number 6, a couple of my friends really think this would be a great poster, and I call it filtered water, showing that tobacco is out on the street, and you see all the butts that get gone down with the rains and through the storm drain. So, hey, it's getting filtered, isn't it? It's going through. So, filtered water. Smoking clogs our sewers and our arteries. Okay? That's number 6. Number 7 is known as the Grim Reaper, showing death from smoking. And on the back, the note or the tip, Grim Reaper, smoking tobacco, grim future. Number 8, there's a famous thing it's called hookah. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of hookah, like you've been hooked on something, hookah. And they're blowing the pipe, and it's like that. And so it says hookah. Don't get hooked on hookah. Okay? Number 9 is called Killing Time. Okay? And it's a death message. Okay? On the back, killing time. Time is precious. Don't waste it on tobacco. Each and every day out there, today is your birthday. It's everybody's birthday. As long as God has given us another day to live, you ought to be proud it's your birthday today. Number 10, what I call the kiss of death. Pregnant women should never smoke. It does go through into the fetus, and it will affect the baby, and the baby will be addicted. So kiss of death, Smoking harms the newborn and the mother. Okay? Number 11, like 7-Eleven. Okay. Cool killers. And these are two guys I call Marlon Burrow. Okay? And his other buddy there, Joe Camel. So it's cool killers. Be cool. Don't smoke. Number 12, longevity. Okay? You want to live longer. Don't use tobacco. Tobacco is seeing himself picturing his lungs and see himself in a hospital bed and seeing himself deteriorate and stuff like that. So you don't want to go that route. Now, there's some people that start smoking and then they use other forms. They use chewing tobacco. Instead of chewing gum, they chew tobacco. And I call this mint julep. Mint julep, okay? So mint julep says, chewing tobacco kills and makes your lips unkissable. So unless you like kissing ashtrays, you better make sure you don't smoke, okay? Number 14 is what I call peer pressure, and not the fruit a pear or a pear, but maybe like the pears down at the beach. But then the pears are made like cigarettes, and they're bending and they're giving in. So peer pressure. Don't be influenced by friends that use tobacco. Oh, you're not going to smoke. How come you ain't cool? Forget it. You don't need to smoke. Number 15, pumping iron or iron pumping. You don't want to ever be in an iron lung when you can't breathe. They have to put you in an apparatus that helps your lungs breathe so you could bring in the oxygen. You need oxygen for your brain so you can think, so you could function. This number 16, what I call real men kick butt. You don't have to be a fool that's going to get on a horse that looks like it has to get put out to pasture. Real men kick butt. Be a real man. Say no to tobacco. Now, in the movie theaters, and I blame the movie industry for this, they still show the famous people lighting up a cigarette because it's cool and sharp. So kids they use them as their new heroes, just like with the athletes. So if an athlete, they see him smoking cigarettes, or they see him drinking alcohol, oh, well, that's cool and blah, blah. No, it's not cool. So it's the silver smoke screen, okay? Silver smoke screen. Actors smoking in movies influence young people. So you don't want to get... That's why the movie industry should take all that stuff out of it with the smoking there. Number 18, what I call tar and char smokehouse. What happened to your lungs? They got tarred and charred. Sounds like a barbecue pit. Tar and char smokehouse. Smoking smells and blackens the lungs. Number 19. Used to be another favorite cigarette called Lucky Strike, but this is Unlucky Strike, okay? You know, and it says on his gravesite there, here lies Smoking Joe. Tobacco was his foe. Nowhere to go but 4 feet below. And it's Unlucky Strike. 3 strikes out in baseball. Smoking, you only get 1 strike. Now, I know I've heard people say that when they smoke, oh, I want to cut down my appetite and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, well, Skinny Minnie, when she belonged to Weight Watchers, yes, Virginia, there is a Slim U. So, you know, Weight Watchers, smoking causes loss of appetite. I'd rather have a good appetite, eat healthy, and not worry about cigarettes. And one of the 2 bonus cards that if you ever collect them, it's called Choked Up. He's ultra. So it's showing Marlon Burrow hung by his own tobacco and choked up. Tobacco puts a stranglehold on you and everybody around you with all the secondhand smoke. Now, there used to be something, the last card, which used to say, oh, well, 3 on a match or whatever, and they thought that was like 3 on a light. Well, here it shows tobacco in like a place where they had the coffin box for the Marlboro Man, Marlon Burrow, and also for Joe Camel. And coming out of one of the drawers up there, with like, it's Kill, Viceroy was here. Like you used to always see the sign that Kilroy was up here. So, and 3 on a light, 3 on a match, bad luck. Smoking, no luck. So the idea now is to have kids be able to collect. They get the 4 original cards. They don't know which one they are. They want to trade with their friends and stuff. We want to now impress to get local area businesses to support this tobacco prevention program by being able to say, hey, we'll purchase so many of these little packets that have 4 different cards in it. And when a kid goes into a dry cleaning store, into a place where there's a food place, every kind of a business that does not have any kind of alcohol, tobacco, or any other kind of substance. And then when they purchase so much, they get the 4 extra cards, and then they figure, oh, I got a duplicate. So the idea is to collect them all and bring it home to your family. There may be a father in your house that may be smoking, and the mother is smart and say, hey, George, you got to smoke outside. That secondhand smoke is going to kill the kids. So you want to be able to and not only educate yourself, but educate your family and your friends around you. So anyway, that's basically what we're about. I want to be able to thank Josh for allowing me to speak. And if anybody goes to our website, which is drfootsie.org, www.drfootsie.org, you'll see some pretty unique stuff. And we recently started a little thing which we call Footprints Through History. And we just had a couple of winners on there. I don't want to tie up the people here. And this was a sample, and this was the Garden of Eden.
I'd like to thank Dr. Footsie for coming on to Here's to Your Health on Christmas Eve, taking time off from his schedule working with Santa. Kids, I hope you enjoyed it today. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bey back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bey Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bey Show, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at LATalkLive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to the Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on LATalkLive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My next guest is a scholar, George Hassan, who has written a book about Iran. And as it's the holiday season and we're thinking about the world and our place in the world, I thought it would be interesting to have Mr. Hassan, George Hassan, on the show to talk about his understanding and experience with the Middle East and Iran. George, thank you for being a guest.
Thank you for having me on your show.
And my question that I think the viewers would have is, what was the purpose of writing the book?
Okay, it's kind of the reason I wrote the book, and at this time I'm writing more book. In fact, yes. I have a book coming out in some February. Is that a problem with it's a Persian culture, Arab rule. 1% of
Persian culture, Arab rule.
Right. 1% of the Iran or Persia today are the Arab clergies.
1%.
Right. The 99% Persians have been subjugated and be controlled by the Arab clergies that they never assimilated into the mainstream Persia or Iran. And they use a very harsh Islam or religion rather,
right.
Which is actually it looks like that it's not exactly a religion. It's perhaps a set of harsh and punitive laws made by the Arabs now to subjugate or to control, to crush the Persians.
It's their version of what they say Islam is.
Right.
And may I ask, you are Persian by culture?
Yes, I am. And I was born as a Muslim, Shiite, which is the more radical sect of Islam. And I went to mosque with my father.
Yes.
At the age of 8, he took me with him, and I did all my duties to Islam. And by the time I was 17, I decided to kind of start thinking about it, because the religion is in a language that Persians don't understand. It's in Arabic. It's not in Farsi.
I see.
And
so the language you speak at home, it was Farsi,
right?
But the book was written in what language?
The book is written in English. The one that you're talking about the Quran.
The Quran, yeah.
Yeah, the Quran is written in Arabic, and in a old kind of archaic Arabic that most Iranian or Arab Iranian clergies, Arabs, they have problem with. And then even some Arab scholars, it was difficult for them to digest.
I see. And you served in the United States Armed Forces? You were in the Army?
Yes, I came in the United States in 1959, October, and I got drafted 5 months later in 1960. And I spent my basic training actually at Fort Ord in California, which is no longer, unfortunately, there. It's a beautiful place. And then I was shipped to Fort Sam Houston, San Antonio, Texas, and the remaining 2 years. And I also worked, or rather, for about 5 years, teaching Farsi and Arabic in Presidio Monterey and Presidio San Francisco from 1962 to 1966.
For the U.S. government?
For the U.S. government. So I'm a veteran.
Yes. Yeah. And you came to the United States because you wanted a better life, and you're concerned now with the events in Iran, and you're trying to inform the American public of what's actually going on there.
Yes, indeed.
And you still have family there?
Yes, I do. I have family. In fact, it became larger and larger. A kind of large family. And of course, I have sisters and brothers here also in the United States with me.
Now, is there a danger that you're thinking you represent a really more moderate approach, quite frankly, and is there a danger that people in power there will not be happy with what you have to say?
Yes, they have actually announced it. When the book came out, President Hashemi Rafsanjani, that at the time that he was the president, he said it in a nice place, a nice way, that he thought he wished that I would have put my energy and my such a knowledge into better to understand Islam and not to go against Islam or ride against Islam. And there is not much love between me and the mullahs of Iran.
But certainly they know of your work, so have you continued to work for the United States government? Is that what you do now? Do you still work for the U.S. government?
No, I don't. No. When I was in Iran, when I was 17 years old, I worked or got a job as interpreter and translator for the American advisory group who were there helping the Iranian army or Persian army.
I see.
Yes, and then that actually had something to do for me coming to the United States because I learned English and I like John Wayne as anybody else and the rest of it. And but I'm glad I did come here. But as I mentioned earlier, when I got here, I got drafted in the army and I was alone. I didn't like it at the beginning, but little by little I found some friends and I found that, no, indeed it's good, not that bad.
You got drafted because of the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Yeah, exactly. At that time, what I did, I got a whole bunch of us. I was a medic also, a special service. We were shipped in a place like at 15 or 17 miles from Cuba, which I didn't know where I was. I thought it was a town. It was one of the fleets, and then we all came back. But we were on alert every few minutes. You get your gun.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. When we came back, we all got a medal, and I asked him, "What's it for?" He said, "Well, because you went there." And all right.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nice to have a medal. And what do you think will happen in Iran over the next year or so? I mean, it's difficult to predict the future, but what do you think could happen? What will happen?
Excuse me. There's a new president. Most Iranians hope, the secular Iranians, and especially Iranian Americans here, that they are kind of getting united and trying to get back their country from, as they say, from the hands of the Arabs, and get back their dignity, get back their... they hope that this president, which is already is showing some signs that he's easing off on few items.
Oh, really?
Yes. I have a good friend that he was the governor in Iran before the revolution, and he had quite a bit of holdings, land, and homes, and they were confiscated. And so was other people. So like if you were a minority, like Christian or Jewish, whatever, they confiscate that. And he decided that to let the people to have their back, or at least equivalent amount of money.
Oh, that's a nice gesture.
So that's one idea.
Is that happening on a wide scale?
I'm not sure, but it's happening because I just had lunch with him last week with my friend, and then the two people came from Iran, and they were high-ranking, and then they said that we came here to let you know you don't want to come back to Iran because you're afraid. That's fine, but we came here to let you know that you can have your land, or you can have money if you wish. You can sell it, and yeah. So that's one sign, and the other side of the coin is that the government, are hanging, executing, same thing. It goes on a day and night type of thing.
It does.
Yes, indeed. Younger students and this government of mullahs, if they have a slightest feeling or that you might even down the road someday cause problem for them,
right,
they'll get rid of you today. That's how bad things are.
They would actually imprison or kill you.
They kill you, yeah.
They kill you?
Yes, indeed. They'll take you to prison within 24 hours. You don't see a lawyer. You don't. All your rights are violated because they say that you fit under the insult in the sanctity of Islam or for other reasons.
They make something up.
Yes, they make something up, and then they've hanged average of 10 to 12 people a day.
Really?
Yes, indeed.
They kill 10 to 12 of their own people every day for
Every day
something they feel they could
public,
do.
In the public,
In
because they
public.
wanted to intimidate or at least to teach others that we do it. Islam says kill, and we, unfortunately, the Quran that I'm writing, in fact, I'm translating it in a simplest language, and I'm taking out the religious hypes, so to speak, or propagandas that they have, and making it kind of naked, exactly what it is. And there are more than there's 114 chapters or surah, and there are about 103 or 4 places that says kill. That's Kill. Unfortunately, the translation or the Quran that's in English, it's kind of homogenized or whitewashed or whatever, and instead of saying kill, it says punish in many places.
Oh, they've just changed it to punish.
Yes, and they've been kind of staying away from maybe they feel that maybe they don't want to insult Muslims or whatever. And there's a big difference between punishment and killing, obviously. And there are other things in there that they are not just objectionable, but they are downright bad, you know.
And when was the Quran written?
Quran was written after Muhammad's death. Some historians, Arab historians, believe that it was written at least 100 years after Muhammad's death. And most of the Quran is made by some people who were with Muhammad or kind of after. And it is, for the loss of words, it's another best book, that Quran. It's
And what was the time frame when the Quran was finally written down? Was it, what, 1,800 years ago? When was it exactly?
It's 1,400 years ago.
1,400 years ago, okay.
And 7th century. Muhammad, it was about 622, the time. There are some things in Quran, for instance, there is a tenet or dogma in Shiite. It's called taqiyya. Taqiyya in Arabic means dissimulation of information or lies, if you will. And it's in Quran. It says that if you are in front of a tyrant or oppressive leader, such as Pharaoh, it mentions the Pharaoh.
The Pharaoh of Egypt.
Right, Pharaoh of Egypt. You are allowed to lie or disseminate information if when your life, the life of your folks, your family, your religion, your wealth is in imminent danger, then you can lie. The mullahs today, they lie almost all day and for not a big reason. Sometimes they lie, but there is no need for lie. Yeah.
Well, and so what's going to happen then? So if they are executing 10 to 12 Iranian citizens every day, is that going to stop?
The hope is that perhaps there are more pressure on them today from outside. Like I belong to a, it's called Iran Council of National Council, which is kind of a government in exile.
I see.
Yeah, I'm a spokesperson for that. There are other pretty much strong groups and that they are getting together, and they're putting pressure on it now. A few years ago, Iranians were here, but they really never arrived in a sense. Now they are here. They're on their foot, and they have a mandate, and they live well. Okay, and so things have changed, and the hope is that there is no actually. It is very difficult to put a time, or even which way or how this thing's going to change. The government, they're going to change because
Right.
the Islam that they use, Shiite, as I said, is not exactly a religion even. It's a political type of thing, and it started in 15th century in Iran. The whole Shiite, which is 10% of the entire Islam, the 90% are Sunni, is all political.
All political.
Yeah, there's nothing at all as far as the religion is concerned.
You know, I tell you the truth, I had no idea. You made it seem it was quite clear. Well, George Hassan, thank you very much for being a guest today on Here's to Your Health. And the new book is Iran, Harsh Arm of Islam. And this book is available on Amazon?
It is in Kindle, Amazon, yes, and it's actually out of print.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
And you're working on a new text?
Yes, I am. I'm working on 4 books.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm behind the computer till 2 or 3 in the morning.
That sounds like an important thing to do. Well, once again, thank you for being a guest today on Here's to Your Health.
I'll thank you for. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I'll thank you for having me, and I want to wish happy holidays to all your listeners.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Thank you for tuning in.